There's no video playing. Hello and welcome to Spotlight. Yeah, recorded live on Grapple Patreon. Keyword live. I'm Benno.
And I'm Sid. No, I'm JP.
I don't know why that didn't work. That's odd. But yeah, we're here on a Wednesday. StreamYard's playing silly beggars out there, but it's a wicked Wednesday, a weird Wednesday. I was trying to think of some kind of Tony Khan approved alliteration we could come up with, but it's a rare one to do a Wednesday night, JP, and always an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think the last time we did a Wednesday one. Was it any time?
To be fair, it's probably like 3 weeks ago, I think, actually.
Think
about it. But it's still rare. It's still technically, I mean, that's twice in a year, It's not that often.
If it's the most rare of things. I mean, I think outside there might have been a spotlight on a Thursday, something along those lines.
Spotlight Thursday, that's definitely been a thing before. Could be the name of the next housekeeping, actually, on Benno and JP.
Yeah.
That's happened.
That has been a thing that's happened. I'm trying to think of the other ones in there. The other kind of days, but it's just normally Monday, Tuesday, regular ones, really, and then that's dependent on pay-per-views and everything else. I don't know why I'm saying this stuff. I know the people who are listening to this know
this is terrible banter. I don't think anyone cares.
We'll
go straight to the plugs. I was going to say, to be fair, the reason we are all over the place this week, and the reason the calendar is messing around is, one, I'm going to be off for a couple of weeks, so this is my last spotlight for a while. It'll be JP and Matty next week, and then JP and Gareth the week after. I'll just be an interested listener watching on from Tokyo, wherever I happen to be. But also, we've had a ridiculous fucking schedule the last while or so that we've been trying to keep up with. Obviously, we had a conversation, about a very controversial subject last week. A lot of backstage politics, a lot of political maneuvering, a lot of shoot promos and all kinds of stuff. But enough about the 5-1 on chocolate and biscuits. We did also talk about CM Punk last week, but yeah, just about recovering from that one. To be fair, we needed that. Like, if people usually skip over the plugs on these podcasts, like this week, I'd say it's important because I think, honestly, like, we do big ourselves up, too fair, so we don't do it enough. We still don't do it enough, but like, honestly, like, that made up to see all the feedback for the Punk episode last week. But I think one of our best fed-back shows we've ever done. But it was also 4 hours, so it was great to kind of get you a grapple that can do both. We did both sides of it. We did like almost 4 hours on very serious analysis of CM Punk's AEW career, and then we spent Sunday just arguing about biscuits and WCW World Champions for a more of a light-hearted one. So we managed to do both last week, and honestly, I would highly recommend both conversations in very different ways.
Oh, they were phenomenal. Like, I mean, I thought Dealer's Choice this time round, having not been the person to drag it down like I normally feel like it's my role to do, but I did actually feel like
it's very well received too. Yeah, we had a great time talking to the wrestler.
I was like loving that, but like I would say, like, between that and the tier list is just, it's like a slight reinvention for those of you familiar with the 5-1 shows. It's like reinvention on that as well. But it was, I mean, the biscuit conversation felt a lot more heated than WCW World Champions. But like, I mean, I think there was, even just going through the length and breadth of effectively WCW history. And yes, we are primarily talking from like 1991 on there as well. But I thought that was absolutely incredible. I mean, the biscuit
still causing arguments. Still people going on the Discord, as we predicted. Like, we had a couple of feedbacks on the WCW champions, and there's a couple that, now that, a few days removed, and like, maybe Goldberg should have been here, Steiner should have been there, we could have, there's a couple you could maneuver on, I think broadly speaking, when people listen to it, no spoilers, I think they'll mostly agree with our WCW champions picking. Obviously, the number one might be controversial for some. I know I wasn't expecting Jeff Jarrett to be the greatest WCW champion of all time, but, we are us. We end up, no, he doesn't. Yeah, he's where he belongs. Is our Jeff. But the number one might surprise people. But overall, we had a consensus, and that was the challenge of this show. It was agreeing, and me, you, and Matty managed to pretty much agree across the board. Or, like I say, bit of politicking, bit of back and forth, bit of bargaining to get our people in the right places. But I don't know, mate, the snack wars are still going on in the Discord. Wow. People kicking off about the placement of bourbons, people kicking off about the placement of Milky Bars I saw today. People aren't happy, mate.
Oh, mate, I mean, I don't know. Should kiddie chocolates go near the bottom of the tier list because we're grown men? Like, and that is the way I'm gonna die on that hill there as well. So the Milky Bar stuff, are they tasty? Yeah, but in my case, it's just a waste of time, isn't it? It's just like I need to eat about 50 of the bastards for me to get through. And the bourbon biscuits,
Same thing though, same mug. I'm pushing back on the bourbons because you wanted. This is one I'll give away because I think it was one of the first ones to come up. You wanted it to be number one, but we're talking all of the chocolate and biscuits of all time. Like I'm still gentleman's three, mate. They are reliable through an entire career, through an entire life. Giving you reliable. Maybe sometimes you'll go a little bit lower. Like I think Chris Lene was explaining on the Discord. Sometimes you get the overly sugary ones. Sometimes you get the cheaper ones. Sometimes you get the good ones. They can be up and down a little bit, but broadly speaking, consistent through my whole life. 3 stars, nothing wrong with it. Like Jeff, it works. It's right down the middle. I felt like that way about penguins as well, but I'm scared to ignite the debate again because you and Matty felt very fucking strong about them. I don't stand by that one, folks. I've got to say, penguins, but I was outvoted, and such as the democracy doesn't work is what I learned this weekend.
Never has. But variety is the spice of life when it comes to penguins as well. Your penguin chocolate, your penguin orange, your penguin mint, your penguin caramels. It's an adaptable biscuit. And you say about consistency with bourbons. Bret Hart was consistent. He was consistently good. You knew what you were getting. You knew what the moves were going to be. Didn't argue with it. Wasn't a great promo. Wasn't flashy like some of these other biscuits that needed to kind of lob a load of stuff in.
Come on, gotta give him that. Better promo than people said.
Exactly, but as an absolute worker, completely rock solid, and its heel turn on you appears to have worked as well, rather like Bret in 1996. It's I don't know why we're arguing about this stuff. Like honestly,
unbelievable. Platt saying the Jaffa biscuits, Andy R saying penguins are mid. I agree. Hiroki Goto's are bourbons. Oh, that feels strong. I think we did also confuse the matter by coming up with wrestler names for the different tiers as well. Even me listening back, I was like, hang on, what's a Paul? Oh right, yeah, that's 4th, and I think a Terry was 5th, wasn't it? Which we figured out in the end. We got going, but I am like exactly what Connor says. Yeah, no, I am as excited as.
Terry was above Paul.
Oh yeah, it was the other way around. Sorry, yeah, I'm excited. We did agree Paul was worse than Terry. I think that's fair. But yeah, like Connor said, excited for Garrett to return and demand Nature Valley Cruncher on top. Or I think Stone Cold Garrett Stunners are going to be all round. 1 for the biscuit / chocolate conversation, and 2 for the Ric Flair conversation that came up in WCW Champions. But I've learned that from Facebook. It's bait for everyone to disagree, and that's pretty much what we found this week on the Discord.
There's going to be, when Gareth gets next on, there's going to be a level of anger with him about both.
I think he's a Maltesers man. I reckon he's a Maltesers man. I can see that coming. He'll be mad that
I'm trying. There's times where, like, if he could get to the biscuits, because he has spoken about this, but he'd be a Mars bar man. He really would be.
Boots and trunks, innit?
Solid and reliable. Exactly. He'd be a digestives man. He'd be like, I don't want your newfangled chocolate ruining my cup of tea. In there as well, but it also appears to be, and he's mentioned it, and it's a problem that exists in this house. You buy a packet of them and then they're fucking gone, and you're like, well, what happened to these? And you get met with blank expressions. You're like, that's not good enough. I know where they've gone. You all know where they've gone. It's just that Muggins here has been left out, and Gareth appears to have that a lot, where he's gone and bought some stuff and it's just gone within 2 hours, and you get in the realm of hiding chocolates
or buying things that no one else likes. Is that usually the tactic? Yeah. Even if you don't like it, you're sucking on like a Rivita or something like that because no one's going to steal it.
Spite. That's how it works with anything peanut butter related, and in fact anything nut related. I found myself just having to get into nutty like chocolates and biscuits just for the sake of stopping everyone else from eating them. And it worked. It worked an absolute fucking treat. So that is absolutely.
Oh, we could probably do like some kind of part 2 because there were a few that were conspicuous. Now I think about it, I don't think Mars bars were included in the list we took from the tier list website. So maybe we could do another one. Crisps are going to be worse. You and Matty are going to be arguing for Ready Salted to be number 1, and I'm just going to think I'm going insane. No. I'll be fighting you on the cheese ones though. That's where the conversation will come. But is a biscuit a chocolate? We figured it out. Is a Dorito a crisp? We'll figure that out when it comes up. But I feel it's like a cracking concept to go forward on.
Yes.
Give us some debates. Might even do Hasbro figures. There's a few other ones. People have Survivor Series teams, somebody said. Royal Rumble winners. WrestleManias. We could just rank all the WrestleManias. So that's what we do now on Grapple. We just rank stuff. That's pretty much it. And there's no homework too. So it works out very nicely for all of us. But like I say, that was obviously Sunday. And like I say, we haven't had a free show since then. So just to double down on the plug, I say the Punk One Bill Phil show is out there. I did see on What Culture, our friend Michael Sidgwick has done a bit of a write-up.
Yes.
Hopefully influenced by us, I would like to hope. hope on Punk in AEW and going through that as well. So a good companion piece, I'd say. Read that and then listen to our podcast out there as well. 4 hours, but very much worth it. And I think the conversation is dead now. I think we will never need to talk about Phil in AEW at least ever again. So yeah, available on pay-per-view too as well. So thank you to the couple of people now who bought the show as well on the Patreon. You can go and do that too. But yeah, hopefully I recommend.
Exactly, and if you've enjoyed buying those shows, and you can buy them all individually as well, and God love you if you do, and then you might think to yourself, it's only a few quid more for us to upgrade up to one of the tiers, and then you get all of the merry goodness. And if you want to know where that goodness is, patreon.com/grapple or youtube.com/@grapple as well. So all of this goodness and all leading into this Sunday's show, which is Carl Gack's King of the Mountain pick, which is it's just the death of ECW. Nearly said WCW there as a Freudian slip, and it's the last ever pay-per-view they did in terms of guilty as charged, but there is some extra Sickos content there as well. The last ever show on TNN, which I've started watching that, and the definition
of Sickos, which is Gabe Sapolsky's hand cam version of the last show, which I'm not sure on that one. I'll find me way. I'll get it in. I'll fit it in. But wow, that's going to be a hard watch.
It's like having VR on when I put it on, because it's just like your head is spinning. It's just it's too much. Like
better booking than cameraman, as Pat said. Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely on there as well. But I'm really looking forward to it. So, I mean, I've managed to squeeze in 2 shows today in terms of 4.5 hours of length. So after that, it's going to be all ECW, but it's starting some of the TNN for some of the memories as much as.
I think the TNN show is only like 45 minutes and the pay-per-view is like 2 hours as well. So easy enough homework there. So thank you to Carl for that. And like I say, the additional Sickos, but I think a lot of people at least wanted to at least view some of it and see what it looked like. At least that last scene on the very last ECW show. So yeah, we'll be doing that this weekend as well. If you are on the YouTube, do check out Matty's Crown Jewel predictions that are up there and preview. I disagree with literally everything he says, but I'm not there, so I mean, he can say what he wants. Can't just come up with lies about how Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns is a great story that's currently being told. You can just say stuff and it's out there. But in all seriousness, people should check it out. Give Matty your support. Give him a comment. Give him a like in there. Give him a hype. That's what the kids are all doing. Apparently, it's been hyped up to it's like top of the charts on YouTube or something right now. I don't really understand it, but it's fighting with all kinds of videos out there at the minute, JP.
Do you want to know where it is on the hyped ones? I'm trying to find out.
Is on the hype for a minute. Is this Mojo Rawley related? I still don't understand what it is.
I don't quite get what this bloody hype thing is remotely at all on here. The last time I saw it, where it was ranking in there, and I have to go back to the WhatsApp chats on here to find out where it was. It's at 40 in the hypes, and as he likes to say, like, hype, and subscribe. But it is the last time it was, and it's probably gone above there. Behind something called The Noise, which was Newcastle to force a record-breaking decision, and it has the usual kind of faces from the hosts on there as well. And threesomes offered by this Blackpool hotel. There's something called Adam's Rotten Rooms as well, which we missed out on when we went out to Blackpool.
Watch that. Don't watch Matty. It sounds way better.
Apparently something called the Maydeen. So if that's your bag, get yourself over to there and get the hell out of Blackpool. But that sounds like somewhat bad. But if you've been there, you'll understand in there as well. So yeah, up to number 40 in the old hypes today. And I tell you, there's a wacky selection of stuff that's in there. So Matty doing God's work yet again in there as well. And you don't have to watch or review the show if you really choose not to. I don't have that privilege because I'll be watching it with him.
Depends. So you're gonna have to put up the united front there, JP. You're gonna be the last line of defense against this propaganda that he's spreading about this car being good. We'll get into it when we get to WWE later. But I'll miss out on that. That's a shame. But I'm sure you'll still have a great conversation. I'm more gutted about missing WrestleDream, obviously. But these company organising pay-per-views while I'm at away, it's just kind of how it's felt, including with New Japan as well. But yeah, we'll get into all that as we go. But yeah, check those videos out if you haven't already. But But what I am here for, obviously, JP, it is the Tuesday Night War to talk about to kick us off this week. Got plenty of news, actually. It's quite compared to the weekend show this weekend. Some very interesting little news stories to get into as we go. But yeah, we've got to kick off with the Tuesday Night War, Dynamite's Title Tuesday. Said we'd have like an overall conversation about it. I'm sure we'll talk in plenty of detail later. The NXT versus TNA show, but I think, you know, against Type JP, we'll start with some AEW and we'll talk that from last night. But yeah, 2.5 hours. I don't know. Well, did you make of AEW on Tuesday night? It was, it's not the last long show we've got coming up with AEW. We've got a 3-hour Dynamite / Collision coming up next week as well. They're getting a bit too comfortable with these long shows, I will say. It's always, it's weird as well, and I feel like you're not allowed to call it out anymore. I feel like remember in the days when Raw first went 3 hours and like the fighting, the rallying call of the smart wrestling fan was 3 hours was too long. I feel like Tony Khan's gone the reverse direction now, where it's like the longer is better for sickos seems to be the thing. As you'll say with films, not longer isn't always better, isn't the best use of time. But a worrying pattern happening. But I did think they made the best of the 2.5 hours last night, and yeah, don't think people would guess any other way than us thinking it was probably the show of the two, and hopefully that's represented in the ratings, but can't confirm that until we get later.
Well, Nielsen's killing them as well. As you can see him behind me, is as part of Boyzone, old Leslie Nielsen that I decided to
is that what that is?
That's what it is.
We need an intervention about to say hi, mate.
I know. And I don't know if it's going to stop in there as well. I mean, what you can't see is Paul Walter Hauser there as Stephen Gately. Just there in the background, they're looking incredibly young. But I digress. We'll move away from AI face swaps up because you are hating it like it's nobody's
It's just
business.
lazy shite, mate. It's rubbish.
It is.
It's all of it. I hate the Tupac stuff. I hate the fucking... What have they been doing this week? Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, there was one as well. Anyone who's dead, basically, they're bringing back and putting in videos. It's awful. Yeah. Hate it. It'd be good. I could see it working with computer games. That's the only... computer games are all that, mate. That's the only positive for me. Every other part of it, I fucking hate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's ruining stuff. Like AI, like I would absolutely go. It is, isn't it? And I appear to be embracing it. Although I'm using it for face swap, I'm not using it for moving videos. I'll say that much. At that point, it seems to have gone like a step too far, just to defend myself there. But in terms of like you mentioned, the 2.5 hours, no TV show should be 2.5 hours. Other series finales being a little bit extra longer than what it normally would be, that would be like possibly the only one on here. It is becoming a recurrent theme. It does seem to be more at the behest of what Warner Brothers Discovery want from it. It's like they're just wanting extra live content to throw into it. But those Nielsen ratings appear to have just battered wrestling across the board, like for everyone. Not only, and I don't know whether in some ways it's showing we're now getting a much truer reflection of how popular wrestling is in the mix. But what I would say overall about Dynamite is I'm much more enthused for watching WrestleDream after seeing this show than perhaps I was a week ago. And it wasn't like I was completely down on it. I just thought, well, it's a B-level pay-per-view. There'll be some good stuff on it. Now I'm like, yeah, there's some stuff in it I'm actually really wanting to watch. And that's the job of what it is. And if nothing else, even if the ratings go down, the pay-per-view buys have been really rock solid for them this year. So, like, it's a strange one. They, got less viewers, but they appear to be able to convert many more of them into becoming like proper paying customers. So there we are.
Bit of a mixed bag for me this week's Dynamite. I mean, I think Joe Hangman's probably, like, to your point, like the most positive, like you can probably say. I think, like, again, in trying to build that story, like the booking hasn't helped them. We're in this situation. Joe's, as he rightly pointed out in his promo, been doing other stuff. He's been distracted this entire time. It's almost like you've woke him up. It's almost like there's a new actor playing the role of Samoa Joe here. It's all a bit 0 to 60 the way he's kind of, now fully focused on Hangman Page, and all of a sudden this Killer Whale champion guy. But that's Joe. Joe can do that, and Joe can sell that. And that was when we were talking last week, and maybe we got a bit on the negative side of what was to come with it with Hangman and Joe. But I think the thing we could absolutely rely on was that these lads were going to pull it off. And I do think, like I say, you could have set this up better. Joe could have spent, it's not the AEW equivalent of was it Booker T spilling coffee on Kane or Jericho? It was one of them, wasn't it? In the early 2000s. Like, it's not that equivalent of it. But the way they set it up last week was pretty low stakes. But as we kind of predicted, the work is in involved are going to run with that. And Joe even acknowledging it, talking about how he was focusing, like I say, on all the wrong things, and is ready, and all of a sudden is somebody who's going to take Hangman Page off his perch, and all of a sudden is now focused and awoken and paying attention to that. I think that part of it really works, and like as a segment with not much time to go to the pay-per-view, I think they had to just hit it fast forward, didn't they, and just get going and get ready for it, and that seems to be exactly what they've done.
Oh yeah, they have, and the easiest way in order to do it is just keep this grounded in some sense of reality, which is weird because there were points where Hangman pointed out the stuff that he's done on Dynamite in that time. What was it, from arson to dressing up as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? But what they did, and the smart move is if you're trying to do this, is just have this kind of grounded in a sense of reality. And it's the idea that Joe saying to him that like Page isn't a real champion, and what you've then got from there is Page going, no, actually, this is me kind of like cementing my legacy, and I've got a strategy to beat you about this sort of going along. And I love that. It might seem like a throwaway line to a lot of people, but I love that aspect of it because that's going to probably play into just in terms of the overall match structure. And because it was simple, it's the kind of stuff that really resonates more. Although we should say at the beginning of all of this, that crowd, I mean, I get the idea they're going to go to Daly's place occasionally, but my God, that crowd, they don't even sort of sell half of the tickets for that. Was it 2,200 last night? And that place holds around 5,000. So it's never like the best place necessarily to do it. But this was, you want to talk about promos, the idea of just talking into sort of purchasing a pay-per-view. This is the kind of promo that's more likely to do it. Whether it does it on the level of what happened at the last one, and I've got some thoughts and theories around time zones and international fans more than making up to what they'd lose for people in the US. I think it did that job, and no one lost anything. It's not been a daft feud, and Joe is that, and you consider the injuries, and you just think that kind of like plug and placement with Joe is it's kind of worked so far.
Yeah, it'll do. It's the opposite end of like the Carl Fletcher feud, like that. They made that work, and and clearly the performance of making this work. Again, injuries aside, you would like to see Hangman have maybe a higher profile title defense next. We've pushed a Kenny Omega idea, obviously conspicuous by his absence here on this week's Dynamite, or something of that level. But for now, it absolutely works. And yeah, thought the segment was fantastic. From an in-ring point of view, how did you make of a Dynamite? I think it felt very like, you say the back at Daly's place, and yes, the crowd wasn't great. I think there's just something about the place as well that just noise doesn't travel great. Like it traveled better than it felt in the pandemic days. I think, like weirdly, like when they had like half the roster in the front row, they sounded louder than some of this crowd did last night. And I felt like some of that was reflected in some of the in-ring on the night. Like it was one of those Dynamites where you look up and down the card, it's kind of good matches up and down, like or if anything, good match graphics up and down. But I think definitely like hurt elements of it in there as well. I mean, if we want to start with like Ishii, John Moxley, I think that's your poster child, isn't it, for this type of match? It's very much your AEW Banger 101, insert Moxley versus Tomohiro Ishii, who, hasn't won a match in AEW in about 3 years, but we all still know it's Tomohiro Ishii. So, like, he is literally that, isn't he? It's literally, we're selling it on the fact that, Ishii is this great wrestler that you haven't really seen in AEW, you've seen in New Japan, but believe us, it's true. I mean, I think as Hamlet said, if you do actually look at his win-loss record, I think Ishii might have the worst win-loss record of all the wrestlers in AEW at this point, but you can always, like, I always go into it going, oh, here we go again, we're dusting off Ishii, are we? And then he gets out there, it's just like, whether it was like the little bit of blood that kind of helped in there, or whether it was just his he can always sell you, can't it, when it comes to the match? Again, the booking doesn't know favors. It's not like they're even telling a story really with like he's an early man like him and Honma in like G1s years ago, where it was like the story was you wanted them to get that big win. It's just he loses a lot, but we're still supposed to believe him as a threat. But he can still, in the ring when the bell rings, make you believe in those big moments and sell you on that character trait and make it all work. And then the match will finish, he'll knock around with geeks for 6 months, and then he'll come back and he'll lose to another upper big card at AEW. That seems to be the Ishii way in AEW. But I did think it was in the end a strong match, even I think with all those things against it.
Yeah, it was a thoroughly decent opener. It's a weird dynamic because he's New Japan Strong Champion, and there's something that we spoke about before. I think it was on the weekend show. They're not really going to be doing much in the way of New Japan Strong. So what does that belt really mean? You just sort of think, well, do you need this? You must just retire it in that case. Because in some ways, I think it's just the odd thing. Oh, by the way, he's a champion. He never wins here, but he is a champion. I think there's just like something about it that, they won't have intentionally. Don't think they would have intentionally done it, but it doesn't really reflect well on New Japan. It kind of just makes him look that makes him feel like, fucking hell, they just give belts out to anyone over there. Thought myself like the match was like kind of it was good in the way, but I mean, we've seen better John Moxley, Tomohiro Ishii matches, of course. We've seen matches between them. I'm thinking of the one in the G1, and then
that's the one people remember.
Yeah, that's the one that stuck with me. And he got enough there, he managed to get up from the sort of lower paradigm shift before, ultimately hits the kind of like the bigger one. He ends up hitting the choke in there, which worked with the blood because, coming down the face of the visual of it was good. And it was thoroughly fine. It's just, I suppose, to a certain extent, it's all rather pointless, isn't it? It doesn't really it doesn't further anything we think about John Moxley. It doesn't further anything more that we think about Tomohiro Ishii, other than he can have good matches. And he is that bit smaller, and he is looking like noticeably older as well. And so, but he doesn't feel special. And it's just the whole conglomeration thing. I just couldn't care less about any of that stuff. I'm just waiting for the point where Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly end up turning on him for a feud I'm not really going to give too much of a shit about in there. But this was sort of, decent enough, I'll put it that way, as an opener to kind of like throw out in front of this crowd.
Hurt Syndicate and In Demand was the other big thing, I suppose, in this first hour they'd set up, and it does feel a lot like me. Like, I think they clearly want to get the Demand over. They clearly see something in the Gates of Agony, don't they, or the GOA, whatever we're calling them these days. They also won, which is kind of something to keep an eye on. And like, in fairness though, like in the body of the match, good lord, like everyone was giving everything here. Like it was kind of a complete mess in a lot of ways. Like it felt like a lot of the bumps kind of went wrong. Like Ricochet took a couple of bumps, like at very high angles that definitely were the way they were intended, including the massive one through the table in there. It was very concussion-y. I don't know if that's a word, but as a match, it kind of felt that way. But like, I kind of enjoyed the mess of it. I kind of enjoyed that it was all a little bit all over the place and a little bit wild and out of there. And I think it's probably a step along the way, I think, to them doing another match. And I think obviously the GOA and Ricochet are going to be going over at some point. Or maybe we will do that straight tag with the Hurt Syndicate and GOA. It was notable. It was Ricochet taking the pin here. But yeah, I enjoyed this on the show.
Like you say, it was a mess, but I did enjoy it in the way that on the quiet, GOA have gotten better. This has been like that. Now it feels like they mean something within the body of AEW. If they ended up getting a title run, that wouldn't remotely shock me. And I also wouldn't be appalled by it. Whereas if you'd said that to me a few months ago, I'd have been like, Jesus, no way you give those lads anything. I would have thought they'd be for the chopping block. You mentioned about Ricochet. I also wasn't happy about him being pinned, I have to say, because I personally feel there's more in Ricochet. And you mentioned like quite early on, he had that nasty mark on his back where he'd gone through the tables. And then there was that table that wouldn't break, and it just required on 3 blokes just fucking jumping onto it in the end. And it was just like, Jesus.
Yeah, that was
Christ.
weird. I feel like he should have just gone back to the top and done the spot again. Like, surely that was the solution.
It would have broken eventually. I mean, God knows how Shelton Benjamin felt after that one as well. But it was, it's kind of different from everything else that was on the card. You can throw this kind of match onto there, and it worked. But it was also the clothing choices. I felt like, in terms of Bobby Lashley wearing his shirt through the entirety of the match, it was just like weird, just like he's come out. Just basically like a sort of city banker who's gone on the piss and decided to have a massive rumble.
Have a rough with the local scallies.
Exactly, yeah. He's just decided, I'm going to just take these fuckers on and have a big old scrap, which is fine. And, and whereas like MVP just was like it's like that weird V-neck shirt that he was wearing, like T-shirt that he was wearing. It was like just an odd bit of clobber that he had, and very baggy trousers. It was like I'm not a fan of that. It just reminds me of the Hardys, more of which in a little bit. But yeah, I thought this was a lot more fun than I expected, and partly because it kept on going on. I just didn't think it would be on for that long. It was like nearly 17 minutes. And it sort of carried on, and again, something like big would happen. All of a sudden, it would be a case of, right, we're just going to fucking throw this lad through a table out on the outside, and all of that stuff kind of worked for me in the moment as well. And the demands as a result have gotten. I hate to say that. I feel like certainly GOA have gotten something out of this, just in terms of just being recognisable forces, and they're clearly very high on, is it Toa Leona? Like they're a lot more higher on him than Bishop Corn, but I think they're absolutely fine. I mean, as a tag team, and I suppose that's one of the jobs that they're looking to do. Talking of jobs, eventually though, can we just have the Hurt Syndicate lose? Can we just have them just lose one of these kind of like tag team matches to GOA? If you're going to do it, I just think you need to sort of, shit or get off the pot. Just have GOA beat them. Whether or not it'd be a match at WrestleDream, I don't know. Because this one in some ways felt like a kind of like a feud ender, didn't it? It's the kind of thing you
in some ways, but I could see them. It's like Moxley Derby. It feels that way, but it's AEW. You can add some more bells and whistles, do another step, later on, and do something else. I'm hoping they go back to it because I think rather than just splitting the wins and having one each, I think there should be something definitive there. But yeah, that was kind of the other highlight of hour one. Hour two obviously kicked off with the Jurassic Express stuff with obviously Orion, I think, and a guy. I don't know who the opponents were. Let's call him question mark man.
Kevin Matthews.
Oh, was it? Right, okay, there you go. Very much set up, obviously, for them to just get the nice pop on the entrance, have a little bit of a sing-along, and then set up more stuff with the Young Bucks. And, I can't say I think there's a high ceiling when it comes to Jack Perry and Luchasaurus as a babyface team, but something does feel a bit right, when they're together there. Obviously, logically, we're a bit all over the show. I'm still not sure if they're ever going to actually... Feels like they're never going to pay off whatever was going on with Luchasaurus and him in the Christian verse. Maybe we'll get there when Copa's back later, but as something for the Bucks to do on the side for now, I quite like it, The Bucks are still obviously going around backstage trying to get Tony. They're the only people in the world who want Tony Khan to do more multi-persons for $8 million. To get the money back, but obviously that's going on as well. And obviously there was the callback to the Tony Khan angle, which they outright called a callback right there on mic. But I'm fine with that as a feud. I think it's a good little side feud for the Bucks, and I can see why they pitched it.
It's a B-level pay-per-view. This is the kind of match you want on the middle of your card. I thought the way that they did it, I mean, in terms of the Bucks and this kind of comedy, I have to say, I don't know, the gambling stuff. It never sort of sat. I say not sat right. This is not some moral objection on my part. I don't really feel that way about wrestling quite a lot of the time. But it was more that it's just like, does it really fit the characters necessarily? But I did laugh when they knocked on Tony Khan's door. I also laughed at the idea that the only tickets they could get, they couldn't even sit together. They had to sit. They got like two kids in between them as well.
Back row,
just like kind of like quite randomly. I thought that was quite fine. And going in, doing the post-match attack, it's fine. It does a job to get to a match at the pay-per-view, but also at the same time, it's going to work on the pay-per-view itself. It's just really what is it's how good are Jurassic Express going to be? Are they actually going to mean something more than beyond this feud? Are they going to be able to deliver in the ring? I'm very skeptical on that side, I must confess. I think I've just felt so down on Jack Perry for such a long time. And Luchasaurus just feels like he's on the verge of just not being able to wrestle anymore. Not a nice thing to say, but it feels like just the injuries and everything else is sort of really catching up. It's like, what realistically can we do with him? You're sort of really limited by what he can do in terms of his mobility due to his back. So, but it's perfectly fine in terms of setting up a mid-card pay-per-view show.
I was surprised how much I enjoyed in the second hour, Kyle O'Reilly and Kyle Fletcher. I expected a meme match full of Kyle chants, and the three people in the crowd who were trying to make some noise through the night did try and get one going. Didn't work, though, because they actually, again, obviously conglomeration verse, I'm with you. I hate it. To be honest, Kyle O'Reilly, the sight of him at this point is off-putting to me. It makes me want to change. It makes me think I'm halfway through a collision that I just want to fast forward to the next segment in. Like, I hate it. But I almost feel like he got a bit of a file lit under his arse here, because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, thought he put in a really good performance here in this straight up one-on-one match with Kyle Fletcher. You know, I think they drew the line really well as well. In that, like, this could have easily been Soulless Banger number 2 of the show. Like, that's kind of what AEW does on Collision these days. Like these quote unquote bangers between people who, you know, aren't always in the same place in the roster, but they go 50-50, and then the finish is inevitable. There was some of that here with the 50-50, but I feel like it was definitive too. I think Kyle O'Reilly, one, went in motivated and went in there to, like, work a proper serious match without the jokiness, but also went in there to put Kyle Fletcher over, because he really did. Like, it was a proper strong win at the end of it. Set up, you know, obviously the segment they did afterwards with the run-ins, and sets up the Mark Briscoe match for the pay-per-view as well. And yeah, I thought this was actually a good bit of business for something I was ready to rip into as your typical AEW booking. You know, there is still some of that, you know, booking more practice going on. Mark Briscoe still knocking around with the conglomeration, and that being what got us here. But I think the actual work here between the bells and what everyone delivered was really good, and I'd go right through to Kyle Fletcher's post-match promo as well, with walking off when they find out that that's the match for the pay-per-view too. I thought it did a really good job, again, with not much time to go, to set up an important match for the pay-per-view.
And this is the thing, is that this carries on the upward trajectory of Kyle Fletcher as well. Yep. My big fear coming out of All Out was, is there going to be some sort of destabilization because he's losing to Hangman Page? And it's not the case at all. Like, he more than lives up to his bargain of, like, really regularly being the highlights of AEW TV whenever he makes an appearance. And you think of the amount of good matches that he has on that consistent basis, while you've got your Will Ospreays and your Swerve Strickland sort of taken out of action, and Kenny Omega being so sort of intermittently booked. He's really fitting into that role. With Kyle O'Reilly, like, it was almost, I liked it in spite of him, because I was there, like, thinking, you know, ultimately where he should be at this point is really like a TNA. Like, you know, I'm not going to mention the thing I normally mention, but other companies, I would think, where he
missed your bar to make January 4th. You got a date with Destiny.
He did a show on a Wrestle Kingdom before against Adam Cole, and I'm pretty sure it nearly sent me to sleep for the Ring of Honor title all those years back in there. But he more than, like, you sort of remember, you go, oh shit, he can do stuff. It's just that he's very much kind of, it just always feels like he's so lost in the shuffle. And seeing him not lost in the shuffle for this particular match, you know, what was it, just over 10 minutes and whatnot, completely did the job. So I'd be in agreement with you.
And it was notable as well what got a reaction. Like, it was interesting the Kyle stuff didn't really get over, but it was more interesting the conglomeration nerds on that the match got barely anything until Mark Briscoe came out, which tells you he's a bit of a level above that. It's not quite Alex Apprehentos following Lucha Wrestler of the Week out, but it's getting close to it. Let's just move the stars away from that stuff. But yeah, overall effective. Other thing in the second hour, Mercedes Moné and I've got Lenny Lane written here, Lacey Lane. We've got she got the X Factor treatment, didn't she, with the video? And thank God she did, because if they'd have followed through with this is going to be a big Florida wrestler or what? Well, he didn't say big, but you know, people assumed big, and people were trying to figure out exactly who it could be and what whether there was a big AEW debut coming or something like that on this night. I think they did a good job of, like, popping that balloon a little bit by showing that video and having her do, like, say, the X Factor speech about how much she wants to work there, and introducing her that way before she then came out to silence. And yeah, the match was fine, a little bit messy in points, which can be the case with Mercedes TV matches, but I thought Lacey Lane looked fine. It was just a little bit comical, considering, you know, the thought a lot of people put into this in the 24 hours before it, thinking it was going to be something big.
Yeah, I think the prevailing thought that I had seen was Izzy Moreno, the former,
which wouldn't be big, to be fair. I don't think anyone could come up with anything. It was just like, what are we not thinking of? What could it possibly be?
That's it, isn't it? It's just like, I honestly thought it would be someone who was in NXT just because of the Florida association. It felt like kind of like an easy layup, and it kind of was because it was the former Caden Carter. But I could tell you sweet fuck all about what she did in WWE, other than she was in the tag team, I think, with, is it Katana Chance or something like that? Yeah. I'm assuming I could easily be getting that wrong because they just make these names up.
Just names on a spreadsheet to me, yeah.
Just random people. And like I say, it wasn't the big thing that I think people had thought. It just would have been better just saying against an open challenge or something like that. And I believe that she'd lost the 2 matches on Ring of Honor as well before she came into there. So it wasn't like she was going in on some heavy win streak. She was okay. I would say, like, I've seen worse in terms of people that they bring into the mix. I also didn't see anything that sort of said to me, you need to be keeping her around. There's something like from that as well.
Yeah, Mercedes seemed motivated to try and do something with her, but yeah. Whether it was just that for a 1 week or there was more plan, not sure. But yeah, the only other real notable thing in hour 2 and it bled into it. So obviously hour 3 was the tag with Okada and Takeshita in there against Brodido. More storytelling. This is where I think again the long show started to. It did feel like it was dragging a little bit. We'd seen some decent matches kind of through the night, and again the crowd didn't really necessarily help things here. But yeah, we continue telling the story with Okada and Takeshita, and we're in a holding pattern, aren't we? Until King of Pro Wrestling gets out the way, and then we'll get somewhere with that. And yeah, it was more Don Carlos on the show, which I could have done without as well, and that's pretty much my only take on that one.
Yeah, I thought because the story of Bandido like hurting his shoulder, and obviously the stuff that had happened in Arena Mexico, I think he was wrestling Hechicero, and the injuries to that. That's the only kind of like interesting wrinkle I think into the mix before they go to the match at the pay-per-view. But like you say, we're kind of in that point where King of Pro Wrestling is happening after WrestleDream, because it's like, I want to say it's like the 27th or something along those lines. So it's right at the end of the month. Then we're going to know what's happening really with, say, a Takeshita at the Dome. At that stage, we're going to know, well, what's going to happen in terms of if he's IWGP champion, how that, like, all the interesting stuff happens after that, rather than this tag team, which is just sort of like partners you don't get on, but they're both like pretty big commodities within the company. And yeah, that was as far. I thought it was fine. I like Brodido. I really enjoy them. I don't want to see them lose the belts at WrestleDream, and I don't think they will. But this sort of did a job of building to a pay-per-view match as much as anything else, and that's really it.
The other big thing on the show, obviously, was the Orange Cassidy versus, as you've got on our notes here, male stripper pack. Obviously, we had the Derby angle to close the show. Never thought I'd see a wrestling show with Molotov cocktails, but here we are. I was only just talking about N64s and using those in it was a GoldenEye, Mission Impossible. You know, it was a bit tactical when you had to use them. Whereas here, it's just we have them on a wrestling show now. That's just the point in reality we are now, where you have to threaten that. To be fair, security took them down quickly, and that one security guard whose job it was to hold Darby Allin down did a pretty good job. But we can get to the post match. I mean, again, I felt like this was a match where 2.5 hours in, felt a bit like the crowd were tired with it. It was a fresh matchup to obviously have Pac and Orange Cassidy out there, considering they've both been out for a while. And it gives you kind of that Booker's quandary, doesn't it, of who you're going to put over there. And obviously they went with Orange Cassidy, but with the Darby interference, top babyface move that one. But yeah, as a match, it was fine. It was good. It was good to see Pac out there, even if he looked extremely out there. He looked a bit like a bit of JPA. I don't know what was going on. He just looks more Geordie now to me. I don't know what it is. It's the haircut, or whether it's the outfit, or what. No offense to any of the Geordies out there, but he just looks like what I imagine I'd see a Geordie knocking around the you get in Liverpool too, knocking around the train station. He feels like that type of scally you'd see these days.
I think they don't feel cold, Geordies, do they? So if you saw him wandering around outside Newcastle Central Station,
it's a hot 15 degrees out, so better pop the top off, lads. Yes, boys. Shorts weather, all of that.
But then if I had a body like that, I'd have the top off all the time. Like you'd have to, honestly, you'd just be wandering around with no top on just to show off those abs. I mean, I got memories of the like, it was like the very first match, wasn't it, that Orange Cassidy had, in terms of him and Pac, and the great reception that had at the time, and how much fun that was. And because there was still the novelty value in Orange Cassidy. For this, I thought it was fine. They protected Pac enough in the finish. I'm not sure about this new clubber. Like, I'm not. This is a man who, The haircut, fine, whatever. But he's allowed to have his hair cut. Like that's his.
I suppose.
He
I
has
need one.
free-
I need a shave, mate. I've been
mate.
waiting to go back to Bangkok. I need to go visit my barber on Monday.
I need a shave and a haircut and probably a shit as well. Like if we're throwing that in.
Not all at once, though.
Not all at once, not all at the same time. The barbers would be very unhappy. They really wouldn't be pleased about any of that. But the haircut and everything else. I'm not sure about those tights. It just felt like he was auditioning for the Chippendales. It's just that you wouldn't put that Chippendale on the mic. In terms of the post-match stuff, I think there needs to be a moratorium of fire in wrestling. I think that's something that needs, particularly after that shot of the, who was it in one of the indie shows? Was it Judge John? Was it Judge Joe Dredd or something like that? It ended up.
That's a name from Weekend Show.
Yeah, one bloke got set on fire. And it's like, well, if you do this stuff, what do you expect to have happen? But a Molotov cocktail just felt like a step too far. And it was the way that only one of the security guards, when they saw that, tackle him out, it's like, well, there's about 18 of you around the place. It's like you all need to be bundling in for that, because that goes wrong. So it was like a very weird, like, I'm not mad on the fire stuff that they're kind of throwing around the place, but it's just there to add, that little bit of extra heat and buzz for that match, which will be good. Like, I won't have any doubts about it at all on WrestleDream. But yeah,
it's been well built too, to be honest. I get what you're saying, and it is ridiculous that we're doing this on wrestling shows at this point. But with these two, I kind of forgive it. Like with these two, if one of them's going to say I quit at the pay-per-view, they probably are going to threaten to light each other on fire. Darby probably actually will legitimately get lit on fire. Like that, does that feel unlikely that Moxley's going to put gasoline on him? We're all going to go, oh yeah, we're doing that pretending to light him on fire thing, and then he legitimately gets lit on fire. He's probably training for it now. He's probably going to stunt school and all kinds. Like this will be going somewhere with these two, and it's going to get worse before it gets better for you, JP, I think.
It's a dangerous and controversial statement, but I think his marketability will go down if he just is Simon Weston of wrestling, and he's just like, and he's suffered like third degree burn.
Yeah, with Bash, more fire needed, needs to go full FNW. There we go. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, I still don't know about that. But like at the same time, he has free will to do this stuff. It's just that. Like it feels like an incredibly needless.
Do a Cody, where Cody got put through a flaming table for all our sins, That got him over as a babyface. Well, it didn't.
Yeah,
we tried.
God, yeah. Thinking about all the fire table, he worked all right for Mick Foley and bloody Edge, didn't he? At WrestleMania and stuff like that. So, yeah, but I mean, all kidding aside, like it is built like it's feeling like it's feeling like a feud ender. For this one, and it's feeling big, and it needs to feel big. It needs something else below what we've got going on with Hangman Page. Didn't mention it before, but I have to say I do like the Renee Paquette narrated videos where they introduce like a bit of stats and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was
around Tony Storm and Chris Statlander. So you do need something else into the mix, and it's doing that job, and it's ticking those boxes. And while they've got so many people out, you need as many all hands on deck, and if you can get anything heated up, pardon the pun, then this is something that they've managed to do and keep at a really consistent level of heat as well over a couple of months, which is really hard to do with any feud in 2025.
Yeah, it's the hottest thing they've got. Like, I didn't mean that as a pun, but I guess it kind of works. Yeah, we'll see where they end up going. But like, I love that. A couple of minor negatives before we move on from Dynamite to throw in. Like, I don't know, Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara feuding. Like, just when I saw one, my heart like melted when I saw, look, there's Eddie Kingston in a Long and Winding Road t-shirt there, and shout out to our friend WH Park. That was wonderful to see his Four Pillars t-shirt on a Dynamite again. Looked a bit worn. Looked like Eddie's maybe been sleeping in it or something like that, but looked good. Great to see. And then he cut a promo on Sammy Guevara, who'd also cut a promo on him. And I just had my head in my hands thinking, this is not the level. This is not the level. This is penance for that. Like, remember that little backstage fight they had a while back? Is it because of that? Wasn't Sammy causing fights with Was it Roosh? I can't remember who else he was,
Yeah.
he was causing a problem. Oh, no, it was
His
Andrade,
life
wasn't
in his
it?
own
It was
hands
Andrade
there,
and
isn't
Sammy back in the day.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, where the fuck was Andrade? Like, this feels like this very AEW, isn't it? Week 2 of a comeback and he's just not there. I kept thinking, obviously, we've got a news story coming up that will kill that, but maybe Santos Escobar or something was going to do something with him. Nah, we got neither of them. Didn't even get Andrade on this follow-up Dynamite to his big return. Not the greatest of starts there, but they were two relatively minor negatives, but they shouldn't be minor negatives, to be fair. Like, if you're going to bring Andrade back and you're going to set him up with Kenny, like, there needed to be follow-up, and there wasn't. Whether Kenny's there or not, I think you need to do that follow-up, and yeah, if you're going to bring Eddie Kingston back, even if we're trying to get him going here, I would have taken a longer feud with Big Bill than fucking around with Sammy Guevara. Like, what are we doing?
I don't understand this, and I think in some ways we were talking about in the plugs at the beginning and the Punk and AEW show, and it's hard for me. It was so hard for me watching this promo, going, mate, I've seen you just have this killer promo and killer match with Punk, and I know it's CM Punk when he's on, all cylinders as well. And you think of how great he was in that slot, and already he just feels like he's collision fodder. Like, that's really where he is. And he's going to be tied down in this stuff for ages. Whereas the real job that they feel that they're going to need to do is, well, how are we going to build up Hook? And you're just thinking, well, it's never going to happen because you don't run enough shows for Hook to get so substantially good that it's going to mean something, and his promos aren't worth shit. Whereas I'm with you. I just think, where's fucking Big Bill in all of this? Can we just get him around the place? Because I feel like even like remotely excited. Who wants to see this? There's a few. Who are the people that who want to see? Oh yeah,
Tony Khan, Sammy Guevara on Chance 40. Like, I knew he turned heel at the ROH show, but it was still like jarring when he was trying to do a heel promo. I was like, oh yeah, he's a heel again, isn't he? Oh yeah. It's like when I was trying on Weekend Show to count the Don Carlos family members, and we had him included as one because he was, and then he turned face, and now he's a heel again. Whatever. But he's just going to consistently try with him, isn't he? And yeah, it's never going to work. But there we go. There were a couple of minor negatives from me. But what was that?
He's the little show, not the big show. Just the amount of turns that he's doing in there as well, all of which all completely inconsequential. But it's just sad to see, because it just makes me think, yeah, we're never getting the stuff that we want out of Eddie. We're never going to get that one last big run, that emotional kind of vibe that you could get out of that. We're just not getting that. Just don't ever think it's going to be a thing that's in place.
There we go. Well, a couple of bit of news to come out of it. Obviously, of Dynamite this week. Obviously, yeah, WrestleDream is pretty much set, really. I can do a preview video now. We've got a Hangman Page against Samoa Joe. That's official. Statlander Tony Storm was official. That was one thing I enjoyed from last week's Collision. Their little promo where they were both lying on the ground in the ring. I thought that was very suited to both of their characters. John Moxley, Darby Allin, obviously, is official as an I Quit match. Brodido, Okada, and Takeshita, like you say, set up on Dynamite this week, which was obviously the point of that match. And we have I didn't realise it was for $500,000. I missed that point. Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks was that announced. This is on the Observer website, so I assume it was said on Dynamite at some point. And obviously Carl Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe, which we knew about. Solid enough card so far, to be fair. Even some minor misgivings there, but there you go. They're going to get the $500,000 back. There's that box ticked.
It is. It's just you're looking at payoffs for matches and you're thinking, how much are John Moxley and Darby Allin getting in comparison to this for $500,000? It's like, and these
what's the kayfabe number? It's got to be more, hasn't it? Surely.
Oh, exactly. I mean, this is just absolutely like they'll have to be getting $1 million a match. It's just like, well, yeah, you're never going to turn a fucking profit because you'll be blowing through that $185 million you get a year from Warner Brothers Discovery in like 7 weeks. If you're giving out millions of dollars to wrestlers, you can't be asked in there. But looking at this card, considering it wasn't because of the speed of it coming after All Out, and then obviously you've got World's End afterwards, and we've got the Continental Classic that's going to come into the mix as well.
Yeah. I'll hopefully give some mid-carders some purpose because there is a lot of people spinning the wheels right now on the shows.
That's it.
And there's just a lot of I'm not at the level where I'm completely down on like the good matches that we're getting on these shows, but a lot of them do feel a bit consequenceless and and you're seeing it in the arenas I talked about on the last pay-per-view. Like, people aren't really invested in a lot of, like, I feel like as we always say, the mushy middle of the AEW roster right now. Maybe that will help. Maybe the C2 will give a lot of these matches, a purpose.
Yeah,
that isn't $50,000.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And if anything, like, you think of the job that the Continental Classic did, like particularly with Carl Fletcher last year, and I even want to say like Brody King before then, of just sort of establishing that these are guys who can hang with some top level people in and around that heavyweight division. You just need that. You just need that kind of like element of structure. And I'm not one, like, I've always bemoaned like usage of tournaments and various other things just in order to get away with not booking stuff. But because the Continental Classic has been built, it could really do with that.
Yeah.
That being said, I think like it's a longer process to make some of the mid-carders really mean something. I imagine when Brody though end up breaking up and just going their separate ways, and I don't want it to be a feud, and I want one of them to turn heel. I just want them to go, we lost the titles. It was a really good run. We'll go our separate ways and we'll still knock around together. I want those two guys to be kind of slotting into like, you know, that kind of like that heavyweight mix. So some of that mushy middle becomes more mushy upper mid card, like if anything, and we take something from that. But there, this card, I thought it did the job, this show, of ultimately putting these matches in place. And you think, well, you had another 2 matches. You'll add 15 of the pre-show because that's what they're going to do. But in the main, I'm kind of happy with what they've done.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to go before then. Obviously, we've got Collision Homecoming at the weekend. That's got Tony Storm, Harley Cameron against Thekla, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue. FTR, who were conspicuous by their absence on this Dynamite with Megan Bayne against Kevin Knight, Mike Bailey, and Willow Nightingale. Obviously, as we build to the big mixed tag. Eddie Kingston Beast Mortos was obviously what was set up with the Eddie Insanity segment. Kota Ibushi is on Collision this week against Josh Alexander. That's used to be Max Caster and Anthony Bowens versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. There he is. There's Bill. And Ty Mello and Anna Jay wrestling as well. So yeah, obviously that coming up this weekend, and yeah, not the obviously only big Dynamite and Collision stuff coming up as I mentioned earlier. There's another big week next week for you and Garrett to cover. Good luck, lads.
Oh yeah, brilliant for this one. So it's not a 2-hour show. We're getting a 3-hour show, and fuck it, they'll probably make it 3.5 hours in that time. Yes, because next Wednesday, October 15th, Dynamite and Collision will be combined. So it's 3 hours that they're doing on there. This is from Kansas City, Missouri in there as well. So like while this one is going to be live, afterwards they are going to be doing tapings of Dynamite and Collision together there as well. And like you've said before, and like I've said, this feels like something that Warner Brothers Discovery would be like, look, we pay this money for this show and this content. We're going to give you just this extra airspace to be able to do. But it's a lot to ask of people, because you get into that kind of raw habit of asking people to dedicate 2.5, 3 hours of a wrestling show on a weekly basis. And then
on a pay-per-view week as well. That's become the habit, hasn't it?
On a pay-per-view week where you're going to be asking people to invest, 6.5 hours, we'll just say, on there as well. That's a fucking lot of stuff in there as well. I mean, Jesus, after those 4-hour shows that they did with the Summer Blockbuster and Fyter Fest, they nearly broke me, those ones. By the end, I was like, just feeling like I was having like a fucking, like, just a fever dream of just like, Jesus, this company, is it going for some sort of world record of just constantly just wrestling on a loop? We're just going to have stuff that goes on for 24 hours. So, yeah, that's what's going on there. Also, there is an update on some of the AEW ratings as well. This is using the old Leslie Nielsen. They've updated it in there. Doesn't include the HBO Max details in there as well. Was it Warner Brothers Discovery, who apparently haven't seemed deterred by the low rating for Dynamite last week, have said in their linear viewership information reported by Nielsen still does not include HBO Max streaming viewership, keeping that lovely and vague into the mix, and it's what they have transitioned to their new big data plus panel methodology in there as well, which I can read out the spiel from here. This is from what Dave Meltzer wrote about this, so deep breath. Nielsen now combines data from its traditional panel homes with information from internet-supported smart TVs. Yeah, I know, recognizing it's 2025 and you can use the internet for stuff. Set-top boxes and other devices. The updated methodology also accounts for viewing in public settings like bars and restaurants, which was a significant factor that was previously difficult to measure. Formerly, most of the data came from 40 to 45,000 Nielsen homes that just had a box on there, and then they would work out how many were there and then just do the multiplier for whether it was basic cable and whatnot. Now there's data coming in from more than 45 million homes and 75 million devices, and that'll provide far more data there as well. And it appears to have affected wrestling in the biggest way, because it didn't affect other real sports. I think was it the NFL went up, that the WNBA
South Park
finals they went up. South Park went down, did it as well? But then well, they don't care because they've just been paid $1 billion or so.
They do an episode when they fancy every 3 weeks. The guys at this point, whenever they want. It's
funny.
It's interesting that.
As well. Yeah.
I mean, I think it probably tells you that wrestling is maybe just not as popular. I think we all kind of really know that we're a subculture of a subculture at this point, wrestling, but like it's even less popular than it seemed to be. Like that. Obviously, we're going to get into WWE later, and SmackDown. 1 million, I think, is the number for SmackDown last week is the real number. When obviously it was floating almost towards 1.5 million at one point with SmackDown as well. Just shows you, doesn't it? Like I always thought fucking Nielsen was nonsense. I've had many arguments on this show about it. I remember that Christmas show last year. It's like we fell into that trap. I fell into that trap loads of times where like we microanalyze ratings, and like Dynamite one week would do 900,000, and the next week it'd do 880,000, and we'd be like, well, that's a 20,000 drop. Like, what's the cause of the drop? And it's like, is it a drop, or did one Nielsen household not watch that week? Because like that's literally like the level of like mathematics you're getting into there. Like it's like the variance is massive when you're only talking the 4,000 homes you were talking about there, and whatever number of those were even watching wrestling in the first place. And then it's turned out now that the percentage of those homes that were actually watching wrestling, it wasn't representative of the overall, even more so. So like everything we believed in the past is different. I think maybe the patterns will remain the same, but like it's a reality check, really, isn't it? Hopefully it is, like you say there, saying about like the 3-hour Dynamites. Maybe it just makes HBO Max, I'm sure, very obviously those numbers are separate, but in general, Warner seemed very happy with AEW, but maybe it stops them going, you know what, we don't need another hour. Let's just kind of keep it as it is. And maybe it's not quite the bonanza we thought it was, and we'll just stick to the deal we've got. Maybe that could be the happy ending for wrestling fans. But yeah, it's surprising, and then simultaneously not surprising. Nielsen was always a load of bollocks, and obviously this measuring system is also going to be a lot of approximates, but it sounds like it's just that little bit more accurate, and that's what we're seeing trickle down the pipeline.
I'm always of the belief that the more accurate the rating, the better you can actually like work your show in the main.
You can work patterns out of it, can't you? You can buckyball it, you can do all that, You can figure out what's... In truth, like, that's why people discuss it on wrestling shows. That's why we discussed it. It's like, it doesn't affect our personal enjoyment, but it's a measure of, is this angle working? Is this feud working? Is this period of the TV? Is it as hot? Is it resonating with as many people as it feels like it is? Like, it's the old selling tickets, isn't it? Like, wrestling, literally, it's fake because they wanted to sell more tickets to shows, because they realized if they could predetermine winners and set up grudges, you could sell more tickets to your show. And that's, now it's not selling tickets to your show, really, is it? It's getting more eyeballs on it and selling more pay-per-views and such. So, like, that's why these statistics are interesting to look at. But, like I say, you can get lost in the numbers sometimes.
You can indeed, and I mean, I don't know if we were going to be talking the SmackDown stuff in a little bit in terms of the rating for that. I know I've got some thoughts on the Netflix one on there, but with that, I mean, you think about how much USA are paying for SmackDown. Was it 1.4 billion for
based on numbers that weren't right?
Based on numbers that weren't right, and this is going to be like, now it won't make any difference, because I think at the end of the day, this is all about like that game of niches. So, and you're overpaying for everything in TV, and you're overpaying for anything that's live on TV, because it's the easiest way to draw in advertisers and the like as well. But like you say, it's important that we know exactly how wrestling is. And I think I don't say it's a positive per se, but if you look at what the Dynamite rating was, 495,000. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that really it's been closer to sort of 500,000. And God knows what Max does. I know Max has got like 122 million subscribers, but how many of them are watching this and not just watching either Sopranos reruns or Game of Thrones reruns or Sex and the City? But how many those people they convert to paying customers is even more impressive. If you're looking at the pay-per-view numbers and figuring at least 100K of those are coming from are coming from the US as well. That's a hell of a conversion rate for an AEW pay-per-view that they're managing to kind of do into that as well. and the fact that those pay-per-views are baked into the cake with HBO and HBO Max. So that also adds them that little bit of extra value in there. But it's when it comes down to the rights renewal. Now, I know Tony Khan didn't seem so scared in this, but then there's a lot of other sport. NHL doesn't do particularly good ratings and goes for really big money. It's just the NFL is obviously the absolute juggernaut. Not far behind it is the NBA in terms of being a juggernaut, but other sports in there. I mean, Christ, I think it was Apple TV paid $2.5 billion for the rights to the MLS and fucking like the US men's
and a lot of that's like
national teams.
It's valuable people watching it, isn't it? It's men of a certain age or women of a certain age and a bank account, and they figure all that out, don't they? And that's part of it, but it is interesting, like what a value is put on it, and it does lessen wrestling's value. Yeah, same thing.
F1 has always been like really good, and if you watch Formula One, you'll see if you just look at the types of adverts you're getting Rolex advertising for you. You're getting high end. It's like golf. Get high end advertisers for it because that's the audience it attracts. That's the demographics. It'll be in that ABC One category. So it'll be people at the top of socio-economic scales, which has always been the thing that's been held against wrestling for the longest time.
But we've got a story on the types of advertising that is going on in wrestling in a little while. We'll get there. But before we do, while we're talking numbers, it's only just dropped, so bear with us as far as this story goes, because I think it's going to get clickbaited within an inch of its life. This story is I'll only show the top because it's on the WrestleNomics Patreon, but I think you can sign up for free and read the entire thing. But yeah, obviously Brandon Thurston doing the Lord's work. It's got a bit more detail on the All in Texas numbers and the attendance, and the clickbait that everybody is going to be running with AJP is that it turns out that the All in Texas attendance was worse than what AEW were hoping for and what it sounds like they'd maybe promised Arlington. And obviously this has all come out as apparently there was public reimbursement to happen through the Texas Event Trust. It was going to be $1 million AEW were going to be getting back from them. Again, like site fees, same as WrestleMania, and obviously Brandon does talk about this, that when there's been WrestleManias in Texas, the same thing has happened. But apparently that $1 million was agreed to based on an estimated attendance of 33,490, including 32,500 spectators. And then obviously, yes, through the door was a lower number than that. And as far as the people who actually had tickets stamped or scanned or whatever it was going in, it was even lower than obviously got reported around the time of All In. We talked those numbers at the time as well, but apparently there were 21,973 spectators who at least got their tickets scanned or at least got stamped in as they went into entered into the building. Obviously that could be different than tickets that were distributed. You get people in boxes, you get people who for whatever reason it happened to be at Wembley. Your ticket doesn't actually get scanned because there's issues with the ticket or whatever it is. WrestleTix had estimated that All in Texas had done 27,000, which is obviously quite a bit higher than the number it looks like is there now from this WrestleNomics reporting. But again, sweet stuff like that could account for that difference. But essentially, the long and short of it is that means that the figure that AEW were going to be getting is now been reduced by the corresponding 29%. So it looks like they're going to be getting about $700,000 in reimbursements instead from the city of Arlington instead of the $1 million they were expecting. So yes, there's going to be a lot of Roman Reigns avatars out there running with this story and showing that it was all lies, the great All in Texas number. I mean, even if these numbers are true, I think we said at the time over 20,000 is still impressive. It's just going to be the back and forth now on, was it bums on seats or was it tickets sold? And I'm sure AEW are going to have a different story on this.
Yeah, they're going to be going with the tickets sold for it. I mean, what I would say is I think
or distributed.
If anyone's talking about WWE and realistic ticket figures, I think I've got some fucking magic beans to sell you because they have lied since time immemorial about this stuff to the point where it just enters into the folklore, like around WrestleMania 3 and the like. I think it wasn't
as big a weekend as AEW thought. Is probably the headline to take out of this because even like down into the reports itself, like Apparently, yeah. In some of the documentation, it shows that there was other things planned that weekend. A New Japan show, which is obviously, I don't think that news was broken anywhere, that there was a plan at one point to do the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Style show on All In weekend. There was also allegedly going to be a CMLL show on the Thursday. So again, Brandon kind of editorializes is, what did they look at? That was the plan. And then as they got closer, they realized there weren't enough people coming from out of town for All In Texas. And therefore, it wasn't worth doing. I think the number they've got in here is between 5,000 and 6,000 out of towners are on record as coming in for and buying tickets to All In Texas. So yeah, maybe that's part of the story there as well. Like clearly, there's going to be a music showcast event with Swerve and Fozzy performing, and that would have been awkward, obviously, with Jericho currently being off TV. But yeah, there were obviously plans for it to be a bigger weekend than it was. So maybe there is credence to that they expected it to be bigger than it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? When it comes down, at least for this one, when it comes down to the overall site fee, at least it feels like I'd be less bothered about a lot of the site fees that happen if there was a reimbursement thing of actually you didn't deliver as many people in, so this is how much we're gonna be claiming back on that. I think that's completely fair enough on the city of Arlington in there. 5,000 to 6,000 in terms of the out of towners. That's not. I mean, it's still
was 5,000 or 6,000. They couldn't figure out where they were from as well, based on the data they had. So there could be more, but that's still not a big number.
It's still not a big number, and it's still not going to bring in over $1 million worth of revenue in for how much they're going to be spending. They're just not. They're not going to be spending. The ticket prices weren't that high, and I have to say, when you watched All In and you saw how it still looked like. I mean, God, if someone had told you there's 50,000 in there, you'd have believed them, because it had that just look and feel of an absolutely enormous big show. So it's a hell of a job on the production side to make something like that not even sort of cross my mind that figure wouldn't have been right. I mean, I think we were saying we thought they were going to get over 30,000 in there, because we were going off the WrestleTix numbers as well. Yeah. And like I say, there is that thing about how many tickets they sell and then how many people actually turn up on the day as well. I mean, they're not going to be getting that site fee for Wembley. They're not going to be running that Arlington sort of arena again. It's very weird with the New Japan and CMLL stuff, because they're running the esports arena, and that's quite small. It looks good for TV and events just because of the fact it's an esports arena. So from a technological perspective, it's got those big screens and LED everywhere in there. It only holds over 1,000 for it to look good.
And it looks like they are going back, just to correct that in the paperwork. Apparently, it does say January or February. They're planning on doing another residency there.
Which is, I don't mind that. I didn't mind that residency before. I mean, even though we've had issues with residencies in the past, I don't think it's burnt all bridges with Arlington. It's just that simple case of what you said. It just didn't perform quite up to the level that the city of Arlington were expected. It was also, as we think about that period of time, it was when it was in the middle of that kind of rebuild of stuff in and around the company, and if they were running that show next year and they're carrying on that kind of and if they're carrying on something resembling a kind of like a hot streak, you'd have a bit more faith that it might draw 32,000. It just didn't happen here, and the numbers don't lie on this. They don't have any. I wouldn't disagree with what the city of Arlington are saying about this.
And to give the specifics, the government records apparently indicated it's 6,258 fans came from outside Texas, and another 4,620 came from elsewhere in Texas, but still Texas. But obviously, 5,200 people are unaccounted for as well. But still low numbers, really. I thought there'd be more Americans coming from out of state, and they didn't. And it didn't seem like there was big numbers, or at least even notable numbers internationally either. So that kind of tells you something there. But again, fresh story, and I'm sure the clickbait sites will be running with it over the next.
Raj Giri's he's already lubed up for this one, isn't he, as well? And he's got the tissues by his hand, because this is manna from heaven for him and the bloke from Forbes. Absolutely love this shit.
Some other AEW news and stuff before we get into NXT and the WWE happenings this week.
Yep, you mentioned Chris Jericho. Well, by all accounts, on what's next for him, he just says, we don't know, right? He was a guest on Busted Open Radio, which is going to be a piece of audio that I will never, ever listen to paraphrase one of his catchphrases. And he hasn't provided any answers regarding where he's going to be going next in there. He said in terms of what it means next for him, and he sounds like he's turning to Dave Meltzer here. Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? We'll just have to wait and see. And that's all he said on there as well. So I'm assuming, exactly. Who is this we? The royal we, I think it is. In here as well.
We don't want to see him. Can I just say that? We don't want him back.
No. Has he been missed? Like, has he been missed at all? Has anyone go, do you know what this show needs? It needs Chris Jericho. No, he hasn't been missed. And even
we've got Chris Jericho home. We've got Cope. That's fine. That'll do. It's enough. If I have to put up with Cope, I'm not putting up with Jericho as well.
Exactly. In the middle of a kind of like an injury crisis, they still haven't felt the need to call him back. And given how much sway he's had in that company at various times, that tells me a lot. He's off. He'll be at the Rumble. It'd be what you'd expect him to do. He'll get his last few kind of like big paydays in WWE, and then he'll hope to transition it into sort of like special appearances. He's done everything he's going to do in AEW, and anything good was several years ago at this point. Just cut bait. Like, save yourself that few quid. You don't need to be paying him a couple of million a year. And I don't think whatever creative he was adding backstage as well. No, he's just not needed. I just think
I imagine how disappointed it'd be if he came back on a Dynamite now. Imagine if he came back for it. Even if you like Jericho, it's a bit like, do you really want to? There's nothing to do. Like, there's no, like, what is the positive way you could reintroduce him to programming now, even if you are somehow still a Jericho fan in 2025? If you're one of them people, you want to see him at the Rumble as well, and so do we. Send him to Saudi, turn up at the Rumble, and at least we don't have to watch him on the show we actually enjoy. That will do for me.
And he'll look at how much the Saudis are paying for WrestleMania as well and thinking, I want some of that fucking bag. Won't he? So,
agreed.
Yeah, he's not the only person though who isn't on AEW TV at the minute, because we had an update from Taz, the purveyor of all things orange. He is going to be undergoing total shoulder replacement surgery and will be off the AEW Dynamite commentary team for some time. So the wrestling commentary version of Darren Anderton, he's off for a bit. It's another injury. He needs. And I can imagine it, like as Patrick said on our Discord, it'd be down to travel issues. That's why it's there. It's just he has so many of these surgeries and replacements and stuff like that.
I don't want to start a conspiracy theory, but mostly I've enjoyed Brian on Dynamite. I've started to think maybe I want him to be more special and to be in the pay-per-views once a month rather than always on Dynamite. But, once you've got a good thing, you don't look at a gift horse in the mouth. That's fair enough. But, like, Taz made some comments a few weeks ago talking about how, it's going to take a while for us to get our chemistry. I think he said it on Twitter as a booth, and we'll see how it goes. And, I mean, did he know then he was going to be off for the surgery? Because it didn't sound like it from that quotable. And honestly, like, again, I'm not trying to stoke the flames of conspiracy here, but, like, last couple of weeks on Dynamite, he sounded miserable. He sounded like he hates Team because they're kind of performing the same role, him and Brian, really. Like, I felt it this week on Dynamite. They're both trying to get the same bits of analysis off and kind of talking over each other. And I don't actually think Taz will be missed because I think Brian fits that role right now. And maybe if he goes away and comes back, maybe that's what Taz is thinking. Fuck it, I'll let Brian do the job, and you're always had surgery planned, but like maybe the timing got moved up or something, or maybe he's just thinking this will be a good time to do it, and he'll come back into a different role on commentary. Because honestly, I can't actually see him slide back in. I think maybe I could see Taz and Brian being on different shows going forward, because that's the one element I don't think really works as far as that booth goes.
Who would you replace him with? Because it's an interesting. Because I would be in agreement.
It'll be Shivani, won't he? It'll be Shivani who says nothing. He'll just fill a lot of time and not actually say any words.
I mean, in many ways. I mean, I'm trying to think of who else. Because in some ways, like, while like it's always been traditional, like play-by-play is Excalibur, and then you have your color commentator. But really, it's Danielson in an analyst role, and then you need someone who is like a color commentator, delivering like the odd zinger and stuff like that from time to time. But do they have anyone who naturally fits into that stuff? I mean,
Nigel, but it did the argument all day.
Yeah. So it's a fun. I mean, God forbid, try a 2-man booth. Just try Excalibur and Bryan Danielson and see how you get on with that. You don't need to have 3 people in the booth all the time.
That worked. I mean, he's out there to fucking enough, isn't he? Like, there's always somebody. There's always someone you can have in the booth. Like, you can rotate people through the show, can't you? But I think it'll just be Shivani. He'll be the third voice. He'll fill the gaps when they're needed, and then he'll sit out when Callis jumps on or when Daddy Magic jumps on, like you say, or anybody like that. I think that's probably the way they'll go. But yeah, we'll see. Just interesting timing, considering it sounded like they were trying to get that going as a 3-man booth. But moving on from that, last story with AEW. And finally, we mentioned it before, but I can't believe this is still happening. JP, Hangman Page's fighting on Blue Sky hasn't worked. As apparently the ice commercials were still all over Dynamite this week. Apparently Hangman has obviously had been pushing for them to be taken up, but apparently his words fell on deaf ears. Have you seen any of these full ads? I'm scared to play them. I don't want to. Playing them on Grapple feels like an endorsement, a bit like AI, so I won't play it. But have you watched these ice videos? Like the fucking, I mean, they're terrifying and they're awful. Just like the Trump music video that he put out last week, where it was what was he using? Like that conservative talking head was all over, and it was all just like action hero music playing as people were rounded up. Like it's a lot like that. But I mean, I kind of just think American adverts are batshit anyway. Like they're always insane. Like one of my favorite. I listen to Daily Tech News Show every day. It opens up with what's the guy who played AC Slater on the Saved by the Bell, whatever his real name is. Like he's doing an advert that is every episode for. It's an anti-child trafficking advert. It's like, we're going back to school. It's a busy time of the year, but be aware, folks. Child trafficking is a thing, and he just goes off on like this weird right-wing conspiracy. I just assume that's normal in America. I assume they're trying to sell you drugs and they're trying to sell you guns in the middle of adverts. But I guess ICE is a step even further than that.
It is. I haven't watched these. I mean, I've been following stories, obviously, because it's been one of the things that's been touted about this sort of step towards authoritarianism, National Guard in particular cities, which always seem to be Democrat-run cities as well. So there's a very clear, like, political objective here as well about portraying any cities that they run are completely, like, lawless and everything else. And ICE has kind of followed, like, alongside that as well. And some people have been accepting about it. I would say that, like, if you go by the polling of this, it's incredibly unpopular as well. The fact that they've got enough of a budget to be advertising for it, and it feels like they're making the assumption of wrestling fans as lowest common denominator. But if that was the case, why wasn't Hulk Hogan massively cheered? He was felt like a big deal at the Republican National Convention, appears on Raw and gets fucking booed out of the building. Like, there is stuff with that. I think they're making an assumption about what wrestling fans are like. And I don't know if that is necessarily the actual case. Will there be a healthy amount? Yeah. But these adverts will be much better suited towards UFC on ESPN. Like, and doing it for, like, Fight Night will be Paramount Plus soon enough in there as well. But it is, like, Chris mentions here in the chat about sort of the adverts during the NFL. It is military, dick pills. I'll throw in there various kind of, like, drugs and stuff like that where you see nice, happy stock footage of people like hugging their dogs and their kids and stuff like that while going through 1,000,001 side effects that can possibly affect you at the same time. So they're making the assumption that this is very much the case for this. And I don't think, because it's not obviously down to the wrestling companies themselves a lot of the times, the adverts, this is a Warner Brothers Discovery, and they're just going to look at it. Yeah, they're just thinking, young men, this is what's going to work. And these corporations like a Warner Brothers Discovery, they don't give a shit about this. They don't. Morality does not come into the mix on here. It's just it's not a popular policy that Trump is enacting on this.
Bizarre. There you go. Remember when we were the demo for on miniguns? We got that on Spotify, so maybe we shouldn't have done. Oh, Red Circle it was. We were filling those adverts in. But again, I guess it's wrestling fans, UFC fans, we're all kind of that same group. We all listen to Joe Rogan and we all love guns and would like to join ICE. Maybe that's the thought process. But you mentioned it was on AEW. It was also on NXT. So the Tuesday Night War was won by ICE. To get back to that conversation, obviously there's a fair bit of WWE news to get into, a little bit more on ratings, but obviously some contract stuff as well to mention, and obviously Crown Jewel coming up. Like I say, Matty's video is up there. We'll be previewing that in full on weekend show. We've got that card to talk about. Rumours on who Cena's final opponent is going to be, but we've got to lead off with the WWE side of the Tuesday Night War, surely, JP, with NXT versus TNA Showdown, which was also last night, and again full of ice. Did you? I did speak to you this morning. It sounded like you were working your way through this show. You talked me into watching it, and I genuinely fully regret it. I can tell you everything I thought going into it. I also already think it did not change my mind on a single person on the show, and every opinion I had on a match going into the show is an opinion I had coming out of the show. Same on the commentary. I've got here, obviously the women's match had a special referee of Jordan Grace, but it also had a special fucking pervert on the commentary desk in Booker T's. Somehow got a job still, like unbelievably. Incredible. Like we were moaning about him 3 years ago. He's fucking horrendous. It just reminded me why I don't watch NXT, to be honest. This stuff and off it reminded me why I don't watch TNA either, because like I'd almost forgotten they were half of this war. And yeah, as we talked about on weekend show, learned no lessons from the invasion either, because like the teams were all over the place. Obviously the two main Survivor matches were built around the special referees, and obviously Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry having a foot on each side. And the show just ended weirdly, didn't it? Like with a handshake agreement of, yeah, we'll see you on the next show. Nice one, good game, lads. And Santino Morella's in the picture, like with Rock's daughter. Like I still don't really understand what I saw. Like it was just, yeah, you had to pick one of the two to watch this week. I think Dynamite was the one, but will you be able to discern more out of the show than I did?
Yeah, not a whole lot more. I did think that the last two matches were better than the first two, but that's probably not saying a hell of a lot.
Oh, Mustafa Ali went out there and had his 3.5-star match with Ethan Page, didn't he? And it looked, to be fair, on NXT, it looked impressive, because we're used to it being the worst match on the show, but that's actually quite a good rating,
It did. Like I even thought the way they did the finish, with him having his foot tied in and around the cable, and that being the thing to distract him as he just gets shoved up the top into the barrier on the outside. It's almost like it's the look. I hate that performance center. I dislike the fan base in there, even more so when I saw someone wearing a retro Spurs shirt with Holston as the sponsor. I went, well, fuck that. Like, I thought, well, this has immediately lost me. And it's the thing, like you say, about like, it didn't feel like there was no heat to this, really. It was just like a case of, this is what we're going to be able to put on against Dynamite. And don't get me wrong, I think it's going to beat Dynamite in the ratings. That I would feel like pretty confident about, just given the nature of it and how much, generally it gets higher ratings than that. It doesn't have the same level of conversion rate into it. But there's just things in this that sort of just drive me like insane in this. It's just like, like just watching that crowd. It's just like watching a cult. Or playing a WWE 2K game, and that's the crowd. They just stand up cheering the entire time for it as well. And I just find it unbearable. While Booker T just spouts the biggest load of shit. I mean, when we get round to the crappies and we talk worst commentator, we just call it the Booker T Huffman Award and just fucking have done with it. It is him. It's him by a country mile. There isn't anyone worse. And we've seen some shocking commentators in our time. He's absolutely...
I think he's the NXT audience at this point, because it's either our perverts or it's like teenagers. I guess this is for. I don't really know. Yeah. But it apparently appeals to some. Like they are. We haven't got obviously the ratings, and I'm sure we'll continue to see the dent as we talked about earlier. But it's got to be AEW. It's on his regular night, and there's more clearance for CW. But still, people do watch this, and people do. They're out there. Like, you see them invested in this. Not many of them, but you do see them. But I just don't understand watching it, like how you could be. And yeah, that's really it for me. It's like I don't really have big takes on the matches. Like even like down to like obviously this NXT TNA relationship. The opener there with Jeff and Matt beating Dark State for the tag belts. Like the botches were hilarious. And it wasn't all the Hardys, to be honest. Like I don't know what was it. I think it was Dion Lennox. He was going
Dion Lennox.
an elbow or whatever it was on Jeff, who'd already moved, and it was just really fucking weird. Like, there was a couple of awkward spots in there, but like, I don't really. People were getting mad at them getting the belts, but to be honest, like the Hardys felt like they did by hook or by crook, felt like big stars on the show, because they are still to a certain generation. Yeah. I mentioned that last week. Saw them on Kai Cenat, and like, there's lots of kids of a certain age who do associate the Hardys still as these big stars from their childhood, and really all that did was build up the Dudleys match, who I thought was interesting, obviously referring to them as the Dudleys in the front row and not Team 3D right the way through. But yeah, like, it was a mess.
Oh, it's an absolute mess. It's like the Hardys winning. It's just like, well, we don't think of them as a TNA act in essence. We think of them as a WWE act who've left WWE several times and gone to other companies. And even when was it Vic Joseph went through like all of the titles they'd won, I was just surprised I mentioned Ring of Honor, just so that they throw it into the mix. So them winning doesn't feel like TNA winning. It just feels like they've just brought back some legends and they've won these tag belts they can lose to fucking, I don't know, Hank and Tank or whoever. Like, just the kind of thing you can just throw off into the mix. But I couldn't have cared less for that. The women's match, just an absolute mess. Like, Sol Rucker can do things athletically, but she just, like, that finisher is absolutely fucking dreadful because it relies on the person taking the cutter entirely themselves. They're just having to dive onto their face on the mat in there as well. And the problem is with those teams, you mentioned the biggest problem in there is you just looked at the team TNA and just went, well, it's Team NXT, isn't it? It's the Iconics, it's Kalani Jordan, and it's not Lash Legend, the other one. I can't remember even a name in Mara Sard. It's just like you can't. How can you be invested in this? Because there isn't even really, apart from that men's match where you thought, well, actually, we're seeing Leon Slater in a different.
That's a proper TNA team. That's
a proper TNA team. Yeah.
Watching that felt a little bit like 5 years ago. This would have been like mind blowing, but now with the wrestling world being what it is and AEW being what it is, and you've seen enough of these scenarios for it to not feel hugely weird that Leon Slater and Kazarian are on NXT programming at this point. But like, it's kind of normal now, isn't it? But like, that was a proper TNA team, absolutely, with Santana and Moose. Like the little video they played at the top of the show with the lads entering the arena. I was a little bit into it there. And Ricky Saints and the lads on the other side. It just didn't turn into much, unfortunately.
It didn't. I was just slightly annoyed that bloody Leon Slater had to get pinned in that main event as well. And like I say, at least that had a bit of novelty to it. That was the main thing that main event kind of had. So even though they're probably going to say, look, we put over the TNA lads, it's just like, you hold their titles. You literally hold their men's and their women's world championships are NXT wrestlers. Like you've already won this by a country mile, and they have to go along with it. Which sort of, I know it's an aside, but the story about how the Nielsen ratings could possibly, what was it? WWE production sources were worried about how it would affect the TNA deal, and I was like, why would you give a shit? I thought you didn't have an investment in this stuff, unless the idea of TNA is a stalking horse that's there to try and take viewers away from AEW is really what you want out of this deal, and anything that might end up affecting it is something that they would view as an overall negative. But it's just the way that show looks, the way it's formatted. Apparently they're going on the road, they said on commentary over the next few weeks. Oh yeah, Carlos Carlos Silva.
They love showing him in the opening video, didn't they, with his little TNA hat?
Mate, and I'm sure he's going through all of this stuff because he feels himself, I just want a job there. That's all I want, is I just want to get poached by WWE. So he'll happily go along with this stuff. He's got no emotional investment in it. He's just someone employed by Anthem to run a company. And if he gets a paying TV deal out of it, he'll be like, well, job done. And WWE will view it as job done because the night they'll be running will be Wednesday nights. But still, it's just hard to give a shit about any of this stuff. And I'm sure at Bound for Glory, they'll be going, we're going to get all our wins back, right? Yeah, you won them. You won the main event and you're holding our tag team titles. And it's just like, and they'll do that. They will absolutely make sure that that's going to be the case. Yeah, Chris is
this weekend, isn't it?
TNA's Jim Smallman.
Yeah, of course.
Carlos Smallman. That's who he is.
It works. But yeah, unless you've got more on that, obviously we'll talk other WWE matters, because what more is there to say on your episode of NXT? There's a reason we don't review it every week. It's our version of Collision, but yeah, that was that. Obviously, Raw also was this week. Obviously, we'll check out Matty's preview for all of the Crown Jewel fallout from Raw and his predictions there. But yeah, Raw did pretty much cement the Crown Jewel card at this point, unless they do go into the lofty heights, JP, of maybe even 6 matches. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case going forward. Obviously, Roman Reigns returned on Raw to set up a match with Bronson Reed that I'll just say Matty was charitable on the setup for, even if he was, in fairness, a little bit critical too. John Cena, AJ Styles, again, like that's pretty much as Matty said, been built by AJ Styles and not John Cena, which is obviously a feature of doing this late in his retirement tour. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against the Kabuki Warriors. Obviously, it is actually a fair amount of story in there. Tiffany Stratton, Stephanie Vaquer is on there. That'll be a good match. Most likely, if Stephanie Vaquer gets away, and Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, which, in fairness, I don't know if you saw the little video package they had on Raw this week, building that up. They did make you believe there was a genuine story here, because you can go back a long way with those two, right all the way back to, obviously, the Shield versus Rhodes family tags all the way back in the day, and right through to Cody's return to WWE. So there is, in fairness, there's history there. I'm not saying there's story, but things have happened between the individual people that you can play off later. I don't know if that's really a story. I don't know if you're writing a book that counts as story, but it's certainly things that happened, and certainly things that you could also mold into a presumably Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns program going forward. But yeah, we'll go through the card more on weekend show, JP. But level of interest so far in this one. You're going to be reviewing this one for us, mate.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be reviewing this, and I'll be praying for some other big news happen in the meantime. At least there is the novelty of the kind of champion versus champion aspect. I will say that. That's the thing I think. Oh, okay.
It's an anti-sell for me, the Crown Jewel belt. Like, I can't believe
the
one thing they remember to bring back. Like, they don't acknowledge any of their own history, but it's like, oh, well, yeah, we got the Crown Jewel belt, haven't we, that we put together for the Saudis? Where are we? Australia? Fuck it, we'll bring it out there as well. It's called Crown Jewel. Why not? You couldn't pay me to be interested in Cody and Seth, if I'm honest at this point. I feel the same way. Like, Roman coming back was a surprise, obviously. Street Fighter film and finishing, and yeah, like I presumed obviously, and they're constantly repeating this. He gets taken out, and then he takes a few months off, and then he comes back and he gets revenge. Obviously, that is going like presumably towards obviously a match with Bron Breakker, but instead it's Bronson Reed that we're doing, when he pretty much, as Matty said himself, heartily defeated Bronson Reed before the post-match angle they did at the pay-per-view a couple of months ago. Like, great, yeah. But to see Roman Reigns smash through Bronson Reed again, like, is that a draw for anyone, really? I mean, again, it's in Australia, so there's your tie-in. But if you're going to do that, they need to surely put a bit more effort into the story, capital letters, that they're telling here, and a bit more effort into, making it a bit more interesting when Roman disappears and comes back and disappears and comes back again. Like, I'm not surprised Matty's excited about it, but I can't believe anybody else would be.
It just carries on the theme of very lazy builds for stuff, isn't it? It's like going back to Bronson.
There's just a more interesting way to do that, isn't there? Like, I'm sure, I shouldn't say that. People will be invested, but, it's bare minimum stuff.
Long-term listeners might think, oh, JP will be excited. Australian street fight. What is an Australian street fight? You'd think I'd be all over it. It'd be Aussie lads as well. Well, it's
the new War Games, EastEnders versus Coronation Street,
Coming away versus neighbours.
What you call it? Neighbours, in an Aussie street fight.
Exactly. You just need a Kiwi to come out and bring out Shortland Street. There's a niche reference. I
know what the children are just going to be for Spotlight next week when I'm off.
It's pure neighbours versus.
I'll be logging in from Tokyo, mate. I'll be deleting it.
Oh, mate, for that. It should be a Ramsey Street fight. That's what it should be for it. Nowhere near Perth, by the way. Yeah. It's in Melbourne. I want to say neighbours is like, and so it's just. I mean, for them, this is one of those things where
there's decent names on this show. That's what you can't say.
Decent names, big site fee. There's a box to be ticked. ESPN will want this as well. It's earlier start time for them as well, which I don't know.
1 p.m. UK.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about it in terms of that perspective is normally ESPN are like, their wariness about stuff going on during the day has been they've got so much other live sport that they want to showcase like during the day. and then the wrestling can fill a block in the later, like after 8 p.m. So it feels like it can tick that box. But this show kind of doesn't necessarily allow them to do that, even though it'll be morning time, because it's like 1 p.m. our time. So what we're talking 5 hours earlier, we're talking like sort of like what, 7, 8 a.m. in the morning. I can't count at the minute in there. So I don't think I can be enthused by WWE pay-per-views, because until they break the overall funk of their storytelling, as you've mentioned, it's just, I have no engagement. It's just like you're watching a company, because we're full blown in this corporate era. Here's the matches we're going to do, and here's how we're going to pander to a local audience. And they're thinking, oh, we'll just chuck out Rhea Ripley and Bronson Reed to be able to do that. And I'm sure Grayson Waller will come out and take some
8 a.m. Eastern. They are putting no effort into this. This is going to be like an hour and a half show, and it's going to be, low effort matches. I imagine. I don't think there's not going to be much news coming out of this show. I very much doubt.
Upside is I probably won't be watching it live, but it means when I fast forward through a lot of the ads, it'll all be done in an hour and a half, and I think I can kind of like live with that. But will it set record gates? Yeah, because people have to remortgage their houses to buy fucking WWE tickets. Of course, this is just the route.
You and Walter Howes would agree on that, mate.
Yeah, exactly. He's turned babyface for me this week. God bless him.
More on that a bit.
Paul. Yeah.
Well, there we go. And that's Crown Jewel. And again, we'll try and drum up some interest in doing some predictions ourselves on the weekend show. But yeah, which matches are going to get more stipulations added to them, because they love them at the minute. That's what you're going to be getting. And yeah, the only other thing I was going to mention from the WWE TV, obviously, John Cena, I mentioned there as well. Looks like Gunther may well be his opponent coming up for his final match. Obviously, that's slipped out into the news this week. I think mixed responses from people. I'm into it, to be honest. I did have to double check. They haven't worked before. I was like, did I just misremember a match from like Bash in Berlin or something like that between these two? But like, if Cena's motivated and if he has to put, you would hope, somebody over in his last match, I don't hate Gunther being the guy. I think that's all right as far as booking goes. I'm not going to forgive them for the year of Cena booking, but Gunther smashes through him and gets like a Lesnar win over Cena. In fact, they should have saved that. Like that would be my caveat. They shouldn't have done it with Brock. They should have waited and done it with Gunther. That probably would have made a lot more sense. But maybe I'm picturing the Umaga match from 2007 too often in my head, JP, from 18 years ago. But I could see Cena being up for it and selling it as well. Like I could quietly enjoy Gunther retiring both Goldberg and John Cena in the same year.
If Gunther can take Pat McAfee to passable matches and manages to get 12 minutes out of Bill Goldberg,
true,
then this is going to be like this is going to be a test for him, for it to be working well. I love the idea of like him losing definitively, and then having like Gunther wins, celebrates, leaves the ring, and then you have a load of John Cena stuff where he gives a big long speech, and the crowd effectively decide to kind of forget about the other stuff, but you give him like 15 minutes of airtime to kind of go through a video package of John Cena's career and stuff like that, so you forget about it. That would be the way to go. I don't think it's the way they will go. Like, there's a part of me feels that they'll think, well, it's John Cena's last match, we'll have to have him win. And I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. As depressing as it is for that to be the case, I just don't. I look at that and I keep on thinking that might be the route they kind of go down in there.
I mean, especially after like really the Gunther and Goldberg, you just wouldn't do it, would you? Even them, you wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't book it, would you? If that was possibly the plan. You'd think. Apparently, they're doing a tournament, and the winner of the tournament is the one who's going to get Cena's match, which is funny. Like, fighting in a tournament to get to be John Cena's last match is a weird backwards way to get to the match. So they could change the mind in the tournament and do someone else. I'd take Dirty Dom. That'd be a good last Cena match. I'd enjoy that. Might get more entertainment out of it than Cena trying to work a real match coming up this weekend with AJ Styles. I think I probably would have liked that more. But yeah, they could change their directions. But yeah, we'll see.
Dirty Dom would get the best reception out of it as well, and particularly if it was like a proper shit-eating heel way to win. Like, that'd be kind of great. Gunther in theory I like. I just think Gunther in practice, I don't have the faith in them to kind of give him the kind of really strong win that would be helpful. And him
But they
being
did it
able
with Goldberg, didn't they?
They did it with Goldberg, but I don't think they don't have the same affinity, I don't think, for Goldberg as they would do for John Cena. I think there's just a different level of how WWE view them as, like, John Cena was a WWE lifer, began his career there, wrestled like outside of doing like kind of his indies and California dates early on in his career. Like, he's a WWE lifer, and like Goldberg wasn't. They, you know, and this is a guy they would bring in for high prices, so they'd be like, okay, well, we're going to make sure that you're losing this one here. I just hope it's more about it being definitive. It's not so much even like sort of Gunter winning. I just want it to be a definitive win, because you want him to come out and say, I take out your heroes, and you just have him going on like a proper run. Even if there is there's always been those kind of rumors at various points. I know now appears to be like going more Brock Lesnar, Bron Breakker, rather than Brock Lesnar, Gunter, with the idea of Gunter being this kind of like slightly turning baby face. I know that at various points had been some scuttlebutt about those kind of things, but yeah,
I trust Cena more than I trust Brock, because I think Brock might eat Gunther up. It might not be what we all hope for that match. It might not actually look like your dream. This have got a little bit more faith, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, some of the quick WWE news before we get into obviously the big story of the day, which is MLW Laughter House. God, we'll, fly through the news, obviously.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, the first bit of news on there is regarding Raw. Which has done its 2.3 million global views on Netflix. Now, this isn't the Raw just on Monday, it's the Monday before. It's done differently to Big Data plus panel that Nielsen use in there as well, because it's Netflix in there as well. But it's 2.3 million, so 8th globally. It's going down. And, you know, again, we're talking about how much people are paying for ratings. This is another, you'd like to think, a much more accurate way of them being able to work out these kind of ratings. I think that's something that's a story that we've been on for a while about this. And I think they do need to look at this, because, again, ties into the SmackDown stuff that we were talking about earlier on. 1,030,000 viewers, 0.23 in the old, you know, that is
great
the lowest.
When it hits six figures. It'd be a great day for the haters, i.e. us, when that happens.
Oh yeah, it will be, and you'll wait to see the various kind of.
I take everything back I said before. I love ratings; it's great, and we should analyze every 10,000 drop, especially when it happens to the Fed.
We'll talk about it happening in there, but we're getting not far off Fox Sports 1. You know, when they get when they have to move off.
Yeah, true.
When they were on Fox, they were having to go to FS1 in there in the meantime, like 17% down from last week in there as well. And the thing is, it's like, say, it's those real sports. Game one of the WNBA, 1.85 million, 0.44 in there. So, yeah, really outranked in it. Now, as with all of this stuff, we need to see what the pattern is, and we're only going to get an idea of a pattern realistically over a couple of months. But if SmackDown is really doing 1 million and USA are paying 1.4 billion for this, they are going to quite rightly ask, what the fuck are we paying for? But then, will it make any difference? Because there'll be someone else to come along and pay a shitload of money for SmackDown.
TikTok. In 10 years, TikTok will be the live streaming host of all the PLEs.
Oh, mate. If fucking Mark Goldridge on the bloody United stand can stream live Bundesliga on a Friday night, and what the fuck is going on?
Triple H will love it. The pay-per-view don't have to be 90 seconds. Throw some meme music in the background, and you're done. Sorted.
Be Busted Open. SmackDown brought to you by Busted Open, with those fucking twats talking about it and going into detail on it. Oh my god, I can't think of anything fucking worse than that. But there you go. Santos Escobar. Oh, we thought this was going to be a story. I'd even included the fucker behind me here as well. And I managed to watch spoiler-free everything that happened on the two shows today. To only then be the next thing I saw is, oh yeah, his contract's been renewed. According to Mike Johnson, PW Insider Elite, he has played an absolute blinder. Fair fuck to him as well, because there's a few people who haven't hit agreements and they've just let go.
The Lucha guys will show you how it's done, won't they? Just play both sides against each other. Andrade goes one way, he stays, like, use that for leverage. Smart lad. There's the former Phantasma, wasn't he? He was Phantasma back in the day.
Former King Cuerno from Lucha.
Yeah, from Lucha Underground. I forgot that, somebody said that on the Discord.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, he was, wasn't he? He was Cuerno. Maybe we'll cover that soon. We'll see.
El Hijo de Fantasma, wasn't he? That was his Lucha name in there. But by all accounts, they did consider his creative concerns and made him a sizably larger offer than any of their previous overtures. Came to an agreement late yesterday. No idea when he'll be back on the road, but he is signed with the company once again, according to Big Mike. So
you're probably like, hey, mate, if you're head of the LWO, we're going to do that again, but the letters are going to be bigger, and we'll give you a Kevin Nash size because of the T-shirt. How about that? Hey. That's probably as good as they offered, but good on him, because clearly, I honestly thought he was going to show up on Dynamite last night, and I think his contract expired at the time it did. Probably gave him loads of leverage to even threaten that or to allude that was possibly what was going to happen. So, yeah. Lucha lads do it right.
They do.
To this era.
And wasn't the Dave Meltzer follow-up when Andrade had signed with AEW was actually, this is something that AEW are going all in on, trying to get as many Hispanic stars into the mix to try and eke out an audience. And I've described it as the white whale of wrestling, of just this idea.
SmackDown back in the day, innit? Eddie Guerrero and Ray and all of that. Dominic.
The big whereas, ironically, the big lucha star they already have, the biggest one they're going to get, and that's Dominic Mysterio. And I know he's not from Mexico and hasn't wrestled extensively for CMLL and AAA, but he's as big a star as they're going to get into this role. But yeah, will it mean anything for Santos Escobar? Probably not. Don't know what else he'll be fucking doing, that lad. So there you go. And he's not the only one who's re-signed. Xavier Woods has inked a multi-year extension with WWE in there. He did confirm this on Tuesday evening in there as well. Specifics aren't known at the moment in there. He's 39 years old. He's been there since 2010. He did have his TNA run where he took over the role formerly played by Adam Pac-Man Jones. In there, he said negotiations came down to the wire. It was when the deal was set to expire last month in there as well. Obviously, he's got other stuff outside of wrestling, the Up, Up, Down, Down brand, which he's been so big in trying to build up in there as well. He's been well paid for a number of years into the mix. But yeah, he's making a few quid. He doesn't even have to fucking do much work for it these days. They just sort of turn up, wears whatever, because you just look at some of the clobber he wears when him and Kofi Kingston turn up and you're like, my God. But again, fair fucks to him. Can't see the value necessarily in that for what he does there. And then we get onto the and finally stories. Smasher Machine open with 6 million in the US. Now, that's a wide release it had. So if it had been in about 2,000 theaters, you might have thought, well, it might not be too bad. We're on the build to Oscar season. It might be able to kind of keep on going. 3,345 in there. Got completely obliterated by Taylor Swift's. It's not a concert film. It's not a documentary.
It's almost like an album party, isn't it?
It's an album party. The official release party of a showgirl there as well. And good to see one battle after another still in around second place. That's a film I want to see making money, because that cost like over 130 million in there as well. So yeah, you would have to say it's disappointing box office there as well. The reviews have been somewhat lukewarm. It's always had it's one of these films where there's this good couple of really good performances in there, but the story hasn't grabbed and engaged people. And I look forward to going to see it myself, because I'm going to have a bit more time for this story, having seen the documentary, watching MMA on a kind of semi-regular basis in there as well. And just the intrigue about how good he is. And the stuff I've seen from the film looks like it's kind of up my alley, but it's just not connected with audiences, which is quite good, because he took quite a substantial pay cut for it there as well. Normally, he would be getting, what was it? He got a 4 million fee, normally 20 million a film. That's what that bloke makes there as well. And he gave a portion of his paycheck in order to get Emily Blunt involved, and some of it to Mark Kerr in there. And it says the film is only estimated to lose around $10 to $15 million because it filmed it in Vancouver, like a lot of films do. And you,
it's whether you can take this on the chin, innit? Because I saw him, like, he's been re-gramming, if that's a word, on Instagram, like other people's like reviews of it. Like, you got to hear Kurt Angle obviously was praising it and his performance there, and he's loving all that and he's loving all the accolades. But like literally his Instagram post is like, it didn't do amazing numbers, but what really matters is what the fans think. And it's just like, oh, here we go, that old chestnut Dwayne. He'll be back at the door. He'll be at TKO going, come on, give me an extra $1 million and I'll do WrestleMania next year. Like I'm with Platt. I think that's coming. I think this idea of him being a serious actor, and obviously he's still dropped all the weight, hasn't he? He's still looking very trim. Is he still filming that film he was doing? Or maybe he's going to stay that way now and be a real actor. Yeah, which he needs to drop all the weight for, apparently. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going the direction that he was trying to sell, that he was going to become this serious indie film guy. I think he's going to see those numbers and go, I want to actually make bank, and he'll be crawling back. Or maybe he'll use the WWE to fund his indie film. Maybe this will be the direction he goes, and he gets those little 10 million checks once a year from TKO to do the odd WrestleMania. There's a Cody match, there's a Roman match. He can fill some time with those.
Yeah, he can do for this. I mean, it's going to be an interesting about if he's nominated for an award, because you'd like to think that would open up the idea of him getting more sort of substantial roles.
I could see him being nominated. Yeah. We're not going to win, but he could be nominated. No, I could see that.
It would be the only nominations they get as well. Apparently, the other Safdie brother, I think it was Benny Safdie who directed this one. Josh Safdie's made a film with Timothée Chalamet called Mighty Supreme, which is about a sort of table tennis player in the 50s that apparently is getting kind of rave reviews in there as well. So maybe of the Safdie brothers, we know which one will have won. I know you're a Safdie brothers fan as well, but he's gonna.
I think I am. I just don't know I am. It just turns out you go, yeah, that was a Safdie brother who did that film. Oh, that was it. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a borderline mumblecore element. Whenever I think mumblecore, I think you. Like you're the first person who comes to mind for that as well. But yeah, he wants to be a serious actor, and I just like he's gonna do a few more of these. It's whether or not he goes down the route of a lot of quite big actors where you make one big bankable film and then you do this, because he's doing stuff like another Jumanji, and I want to say there's another Jungle Cruise he's going to do, and that's the stuff that's going to end up he's going to get the big bank for that, and he's going to have the big Disney push behind it. That's the stuff he's going to be doing. He's never going to be that actor, and he hasn't got that eye for a good script in the way that Dave Bautista does. And Dave Bautista has now found himself becoming this really good character actor who inexplicably will make some other looks like straight to streaming trash on the side as well. So yeah,
gotta fill that time, Yeah. Well, there we go. Before we get to the final news stories, a couple of other shows going on around the world to mention. I've got to ask, did you watch MLW Laughter House? This
a bit of it.
With Matt Riddle's big heel turn that took place. That they made such headlines as former WWE star turns heel on the Observer site. And I had to click into it to find out it was in fact Matt Riddle. Anything else happen of note on Slaughterhouse? Sorry, not the other Bill Comedy Club.
The only thing. No, not really. If I'm going to say in a word, it was they opened up with the Chamber of
Sorry, go on.
It opened up with a Chamber of Horrors match, which ended up with Brock Anderson was in it, and I just even forgot that bloke was alive. Mads Kruger defending his title by sticking C.W. Anderson in the electric chair, Abdullah the Butcher style, and him getting electrocuted in there as well. They had Shotzi Blackheart doing something called the Graveyard Shift. And then there was a whole load of contra attacks as well in there. They had an advert because Paul Waterhouse's in it, and obviously he's got a role within the company for his for the Bruce Springsteen film that he's in with Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong from Succession. So yeah, which is kind of bemusing to see an ad for what appears to be quite a big Oscar bait film being chucked onto MLW. Opera Cup shite. Saw the heel turn. Riddle had been getting booed for a little while, so apparently that was some of the thinking that was in there as well. Called himself a rude dude, and then Mystico won the Opera Cup.
The bro is dead, I think he said. Fuck off.
Oh yeah,
bro died to us in 2020. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, died a long time ago in there. And then someone else who's you'll be delighted to see is back in there. Aries attacked Mystico after he won the Opera Cup because Mystico can't lose. That's the deal with booking him, is he can't lose, and MLW certainly aren't in the position to do that. And Killer Cross is returning to MLW in November, so that is all the MLW stuff is there it's on YouTube, and I watched some of it, and even I was going, I don't give a shit about this. I couldn't give a flying fuck. It's like, where were the skyscrapers when you need them? Instead, you got Satoshi Kojima beating Baron Corbin. You're wondering what the fuck is going on here. So yeah,
weird fever dreams. Someone's bad Fire Pro game. That's what MLW is these days, bro. Speaking of which, getting to other shows, obviously, we're on the road to King of Pro Wrestling, which again, I am disappointed to be in Japan only a few days after, but obviously on the road to show, Dookie regained the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, beating Despy for that one. Obviously, reshuffling things, and obviously, bit of an impact on the actual King of Pro Wrestling card coming up, JP, which we do have pretty much the full card of. Zack Sabre Jr., Takashi, obviously in the main, Gabe Kid, Yota Tsuji. We have Yuto, Ice, and Oscar defending against Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura. Let's see if they can follow up that appearance last time. Now they've got the belts. Oleg Bolton against defending the openweight title, the never openweight title against Evil. We have the TV champion El Phantasmo against Hiroshi Tanahashi on the show. Goto Yoshihashi and Yo are taking on Rohei Oiwa, Hartley Jackson, and Kosei Fujita. And we have a no DQ, no countout matches stipulation now for Drilla Maloney versus Sonada, which was set up on the road to show, and also on the show Shingo Hiromu and Titan versus David Finlay, Taiji Shimori, and Clark Connors. But there you go, pretty much the full card sorted now for next Monday. I wonder if Fatty will watch that when you do Spotlight. I'm excited.
Well, that'll be it. If he's he'll watch Crown Jewel. This is the real fucking test about whether or not he watches this. I was wrong in terms of the day. Yeah, October 13th for it. On a Monday as well. Bloody hellfire. I mean,
you're going to be covering Bound for Glory, Crown Jewel, and King of Pro Wrestling. Just do Crown Jewel at the end, JP. Give him 5 minutes for it and make him spend the first 2 hours reviewing those 2 shows. Sounds like a much better time for you.
That sounds like a great crack. At least we'll unite in probably our love for Bound for Glory in there as well, while trying to get just go, do we have to talk about Crown Jewel? Oh, that's going to be a tester for us. Arguably at the top of the card, is this as good as they can realistically do? I expect to, we'll talk about it more in the previews there. I expect Takesh to win in there. Gabe Kid, Yota Tsuji would be an interesting one, but I assume you'd put the belt on Yota Tsuji there as well at the same time. And like you say, Yuto, Ice, and Oscar, I'm just intrigued to see what they do with them, because it feels like 2 completely fresh faces. It's also, do we get any Wrestle Kingdom announcements? Is there anything that we're going to see afterwards? Because this is the last big show before we get to Wrestle Kingdom. So you're wanting to think that there's going to be some announcements in the way that back in the day when you watch a big New Japan show, you get really excited when they go to the interval because you'd be like, oh, we're going to get some cool video package about something that's going to be happening. And they just don't appear to do that stuff anymore. But yeah, I'm ever hopeful that New Japan will get out of their funk, even if I know realistically that's not going to happen for a very, very long time.
It takes a lot for me to go, I wish I was there, because I do, genuinely. I'd love to go to Sumo Hall to see a show like this, so it is a bit of a shame, but yeah, I can't see things turning around anytime soon. But this is the time.
He's working twice that weekend. On the Saturday, he's working for Noah against Kaito Kiyomiya.
Is that then? There you go, you can review that too. There you go. It's got to be hour 4. Crown Jewel's going to be hour 5 content at this point.
He's going to be seething when I see I'll put Noah and New Japan up on there as well. He'd just be
have to call in a favour with Grapple Gather for that one.
He would just tell me he watched the promos instead. Yeah, intriguing stuff.
No, some final news before we get out of here, JP.
Yes, I know you're excited. Raven, the documentary, which we will be watching. That much.
Is Fightful not working for you either? I think the site's down.
Oh, is it? Oh,
it's not loaded anyway.
Well, it's coming to Amazon Prime in there. So I want to say, is it November 18th? He just says
19th
on here. 19th. Oh, okay. He says it's going to be on there as well. The fact it's going to Prime Video, which, I mean, if you ever look at Amazon Prime, those of you who subscribe to it, there's a lot of shit they have in there. And they appear to be going all in on the true crime bug as well, but just a much lower level of it as well. But nevermore, the Raven effect is there.
Yeah. Like documentary filmmaker Geordie Day, not a name I know. But
No.
Night School Films, don't know. Apparently Raven's in Heyman, Jericho, Billy Corgan, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, DDP. All the names you'd want. It's a surprise like so many of them are still alive. So there you go. That's a good starting point. Apparently Blue Meaning's knocking around as well. He's doing a Q&A for it. So it could be something if they tell the truth. I mean, we could get the full background, JP, the origin story to his Mensa status, you know? That could be like a good half hour of this documentary.
I mean, I'd like to see an hour and a half of him completing a Mensa test with a camera with no cuts whatsoever. Him and a pen and paper and having to complete the fucking thing while being filmed at several angles to avoid all cheating. I just don't have.
You'd want to be in the room, wouldn't you, just to make sure?
Bollocks. Oh yeah, exactly. Unless he does it in front of me and I'm watching in the way that I used to invigilate exams and I'm able to see this, then yeah. Up to that point, you just have to.
You could prove the other Raven rumor true or false, but you'd need some measuring tape for that, and let's not get into that. I don't think you'd fancy that one. So that's
clearly one of his lies in there. Clearly, Rick Rude, I'm believing that all of the way. But
there'll be a deep cut on that one day. Genuine.
Oh, there is. And something else that we've all been buzzing for: Dark Side of the Ring is returning for season 7. Fucking hell! The show that keeps Vice alive. In there, it's been renewed. This was reported on Wednesday night by PW Insider. Isn't it Wednesday today? I'm not quite sure how that works, but there you go. Yeah, it's 60 original episodes there as well. I mean, what else are they going to include at this stage? I mean, a season on Vince McMahon, but I don't know.
They could do Rick Rude's cough. That could be an episode for them.
That would be it, isn't it? It's just going to be this lad died, Mr. Perfect. And then there's a part of me think, have they already done that? And even then,
that feels familiar. If they haven't, I'm sure they announced it. That feels familiar, yeah.
So it would be him. You can't really do say Teddy Hart because Peacock already did that. They already had a 3-part, incredibly bleak documentary that I never want to sit through ever again. So that's the thing I have with this is I get for them that for Vice, who are struggling, there's a documentary out called Vice is Broke that I started watching, which just tells you the state that Vice are in. But they themselves are like, well, what the fuck do we do with this? Like, this is the thing that they've got. They do Dark Side of the 90s, Dark Side of Football, stuff like that. They do. This is the whole, like, this is what their network is kind of built up in there as well. Ewan says here, Sid and Arn and the hotel in Blackburn.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'd be all right with that. And then it'll be some
Yokozuna in the Liverpool hotel. There you go. Just do an entire British-based one.
They can't even do like XPW. Like they've done that. It's like they've done as much of this stuff as they possibly.
We need more sleeves, don't we? We need more stuff to happen. They could do an episode on the Death Valley Driver sleeve spread. Interview Tony Khan. Find out where he got the information from.
Exactly. Abyss being questioned about several things over a 2-hour period.
Was it Bruce
there.
Pritchard who used to tell those lies? Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like it's something he would do in there.
God, he did, didn't he? Did Bruce Pritchard used to go on the show and say all kinds of really bad stuff about Abyss, and now they work together in the WWE production truck. I wonder how that goes.
Yeah, and he's still treating him like fucking shit these days as well. But yeah, that's a really weird one in terms of that. So we'll see what happens when there's the announcement of which stories they do. And I feel that this is going to be the ultimate law of diminishing returns. And then it'll be like a real question of, is there really any more stories they can tell?
Jim Breaks. That could be one. There you go. Just do it.
Jim Breaks. Vern Gagne. But again, that's stuff that happened right at the very end in there as well. Otherwise, it's just like insert dead wrestler from the 80s and then try and add a bit of story to it, a bit of colour. But speaking of colour...
one story they could include.
Yeah, one story they could include. Rajah Jackson is facing a felony and misdemeanor battery charges following the Knox Pro incident there as well. This is where he beat up Psycho Stu, just like completely wasn't defending himself, just laying in there with fists. It was absolutely grim in there as well. He lost several teeth. He was hospitalized for a while as well. It was broadcast on some live streaming website called Kick in there as well, where Jackson hosted some shows on there as well at the same time in there. So, yeah, it was something we heard about. The police were going to be involved. And, yeah, he was arrested last month. He was released on a $50,000 bail in there. But yeah, he's going to be charged. This is according to the LA Times, who said this is coming from the LA County District Office, the District Attorney's Office in there. So yeah, he might be looking at some time because it's on TV, and fuck me, he deserves it. It's assault.
And finally, an assault on JP.
Well, he's turned face for me as well. I will never agree with his decision to just not stick with the job that pays him at least a healthy six figures for each and every one of the films he does. But Paul Walter Hauser is wanting a multi-promotion mega show to counter WWE Saudi WrestleMania there as well. He appeared on TMZ's Inside the Ring podcast, which I have to assume is going to be a load of old shite. But he said it'd be a good idea if MLW, AEW, and several other companies, I think he's getting the order, the hierarchy wrong in that as well, join forces to present a mega show during WrestleMania weekend in 2027. He says, he mentioned on it MLW, CMLL, New Japan, AEW, Progress, Defy, GCW. And I was like, what? Companies you've worked for at various points, basically. Come together, do a mega show, sell out a 30,000 seat place in there as well. But he just says if they can get the egos to go away in there. But I agree with the general effort of actually, I think there is a window of opportunity where there is this criticism of WWE. And it's something that if you want to try and put them on the back foot, you run something like this because they're not going to be able to counter program it in the States in terms of an attendance there as well. And you give people something. However, after hearing about the All In story, you do think to yourself, what the hell do you do with it? And here's another part of the story, and he's right in this. WWE is being greedy and ugly by raising ticket prices there.
See, tenfold face.
Oh, completely. He says, times are tougher than they used to be, but the prices are going up. There's no real humanity from a corporate perspective, whereas you can go to an AEW show or an MLW show, chucking that in all the time, for $15 to $40. That's a lie. MLW do tickets for $10. I know, because I get the fucking press releases through and have a decent seat.
Texted to you on an email.
By email, sadly. I fear my communications with Court Bauer very much dried up once he heard what I said about the Von Erichs, which I completely fucking stick by 150%, by the way, Court. Not backing down on that.
There you go. Well, that's it. There's our finally story. Paul Walter Hauser with the good news. There you go. The one time you and him might agree. But we'll see if that actually comes into fruition, because if we know anything, these companies do not like working together. Like JP doesn't like working with Paul Walter Hauser. But on that note, yeah, anything else to go into, JP? Anything else to cover? Been no busy week news-wise, not much show-wise, but obviously the big weekend coming up, which of course we'll be covering in more detail on the weekend show. And what else is going on, JP?
Yeah, well, we've got the weekend show coming up on Friday. I believe we're going to be doing that. I'll be putting in a news dump tomorrow.
Like that, it'll be literally today. At this point.
Oh my god!
Oh, well, past midnight for me, not for you guys.
Oh god, yeah. It still is only Wednesday today. So you have got your Thursday. We're into Thursday at the minute. I keep on forgetting
Thursday for me,
because this has completely thrown me. This title Tuesday stuff in there as well.
It does feel weird, doesn't it? Like the week's gone already.
God,
it's gone.
Completely gone. And on Sunday, we're going to be doing the Death of ECW with King of the Mountain, Carl Gack, as well.
Not the documentary, though. We might need to retitle that.
Yeah, that's true. It's not the documentary. It's the final pay-per-view, guilty as charged. But there's also the
ECW, the final dance. We'll call it
the final dance, yeah, on there as well. And there'll be a bit of ECW's last show on TNN. And if my brain can cope with the scrambled camera work, some of the fan cam show that also happened, their last ever show that they ran in St. Paul, Minnesota. Not exactly an ECW hotbed there, but there you go. So, yeah. No, was it there or was it Arkansas? Neither of which are like the big places that they would normally run. So, yeah, month gone, ECW. That's a good shout. It's carrying on the month one series in there.
Yeah, like we did for the final WCW. Works out well. So obviously we got that coming up. And yeah, obviously I'll be away for a couple of weeks, but I know yourselves have been working on some fun little stuff that'll be revealed week on week as it happens. Like might even be a sneaky episode of Time coming up in October. The Kings of the Mountain already know what is planned for October. But yeah, some fun shows to go in addition to, like I say, if you haven't checked it out already, check out the Punk show, which was the last show of last month. Like I say, where we go in detail on Brawl Out, but also some of the actual good matches that Punk did early in his AEW run before it all went to shit. And of course, kicking off October, the 5-to-1 tier list show. Like I say, a great new concept that I'm very proud of. Did work out very well. Like I say, we'll follow that up with a tier list on crisps or Premier League footballers from the 90s was the other idea we had, wasn't it? So we'll do that at some point as well. And yeah, there might be some maybe music-based shows coming up this month for people to look forward to. And obviously, Halloween's coming up as well. And maybe a tactically arranged being away Halloween week, JP. But I believe there's a fun show coming up for Halloween as well. So very much look forward to that as well, folks. But yeah, as always, thank you, patrons, for tuning in with us. As long as there's nothing else for you, JP. Thank you, live patrons. Thank you to our YouTube members. And of course, as I mentioned, thank you to our Kings and Queens of the Mountain for tuning in with us for another night. Karen Laughlin, Eddie Sarburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, Sam Mulvaney, and Marty Ellis. But yeah, folks, go forth. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you again on the weekend show on Friday.
Bye.
Get a nice,